We don't use one.
The EAS exceeds any penalties.
We will call to order the special meeting of the Paradise Irrigation District Board of Directors at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, May 20th. Would like to... Oh, I called it to order. Okay, if any board members haven't yet silenced their cell phones, now's a good time to do it. And since I'm the one that's opening the meeting, I'm going to skip the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to go right to roll call.
Director Cola? Director Cola is absent at this time. Director Duncan?
Here.
President Hunt?
Here.
Director Fletcher?
Here.
Director Kellogg?
Present.
Thank you. Public participation. I don't see any
Closed.
I don't see any publics out there. Okay, so the closed session, this is going to be our conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and one potential case. We are now going to adjourn into our closed session meeting. We'll make an announcement when we return. All the public got that. So now's our chance. We're returning from a closed session meeting. The announcement we have is that we gave direction to legal counsel, and that special meeting is now adjourned. We'll call to order the regular meeting of the Paradise Irrigation District Board of Directors this Wednesday, May 20th at 6:35 p.m. May we have, if any of the public board members, we already went through this, but if any of the public have cell phones, I would ask you to put them on silent or turn them off at this time so we don't have disruptions in the meeting. And at this point, we will have our Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, so I'm going to leave this thing on. I'm not expecting any phone calls.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Vice President Cola?
Here.
Director Duncan?
Here.
President Hunt?
Here.
Director Fletcher?
Here.
Director Kellogg?
Present.
This is 2 months, right?
Thank you. We're going to be first visiting the consent calendar.
That's your current amount of charges.
Does anybody want?
We always lag behind.
I'll second that. Anyone wish to take anything?
Is there does anybody want anything removed from the consent calendar?
I'd like to visit with Jim about the completion of pump station number 2 and the chlorine gas scrubber. I think we'd approve it, but I think it'd be good that we have his reports on.
We'll pull item number 2D
Any.
off of the consent
2E.
calendar.
Any. And 2E.
That's a chlorine gas scrubber. I think it's important that people in the community realize what we've been doing up there at the treatment plant to make our processes safer and more efficient.
Okay, so that means that you're also making a recommendation to amend the,
Yeah, take those off of the
Consent
consent
calendar.
calendar and then talk about them at your discretion.
so I'm gonna move this on ahead. We're gonna be having a vote in regard to the approval of consent calendar items 2A, 2B, 2C. All those in favor say aye.
Roll call. Roll call.
That part's up in the
Yep.
Yeah, it's right there in big print.
resolution. There it is.
B.
I had it underlined over here, but not there. Okay, roll call, please.
Vice President Cola?
Yes.
Director Duncan?
Yes.
Director Fletcher?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
Yes.
President Hunt?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. We're going to go ahead right now and address items 2D and then 2E. Approval and notice of completion and acceptance. Pump station number 2, rehab and tank level control, and then the chlorine gas scrubber demolition. Mr. Passanisi, will you give us a background and rundown on that?
Pump station number 2 took a lot of planning from the onset of when we recognized some of the failures, deficiencies of the pump station to keep up with demand. Staff met and determined scope of work. Scope of work turned out to be accurate. However, a number of change orders, once we got into the actual work, required a lot of additional improvements that we had not considered at the time. Consequently, there were 4 change orders. They were all excellent enhancements to the operations and maintenance of future operation of pump station number 2. As a result of all the additional work, it took much longer to complete the project than was anticipated. The contractor did work with staff very well, and there was a great collaboration, which was his philosophy as well as mine. We worked together and came up with solutions to SCADA control, and we're pleased that with the work of the contractor. That solves pump station number 2 problems. And there's a before and after picture. Pretty much, if you look at all the different components, you'll see pretty much a complete reorganization. Even though there's all kinds of panels, there aren't any of the existing panels except the one on the far left. One thing the staff report points out is A zone is still vulnerable because we do need a pipeline from the treatment plant, ideally with a pump station. The pump station's included in the processed water recycle project. That will make A zone technically based on engineering standards reliable once we get that pipeline done. So I don't want you to think that even though pump station number 2 is working great now, we still have issues with A zone. And that's
For future.
That's for future. So any questions?
Go ahead, Bill. Do we have questions?
Yeah, the first paragraph of your report. I'll just go ahead and read it, I guess. Pump station number 2 is the only source of water for the A zone. Operational problems in A zone raise concerns with staff regarding the vulnerability to water outage relative to pressure control, pump reliability, and redundancy, reduce fire flow, and emergency storage. This is why it was so important to have the work done.
And I'll point out that Neil Esla was very helpful in this whole project from the very, very beginning. And we've actually instituted some time of use controls to help with energy consumption. We're still working on refine that. And it was a whole staff involvement, I'd like to point out.
Yeah, great job, though.
Excuse me, we're gonna. We'll take public comments. Was there any other questions from the board for Jim? Anything else from staff?
Regarding pump 2.
Did you have a question?
I was just going to make a comment. I've been monitoring, because of my interest in the lockouts and various other things on this modification. I think it's really good. And following on your lead-in before I was elected to the board, I really feel that pipeline from the treatment plant, is it 2.5 mil? Is that what the estimate was, or whatever it was? I got it in my notes at other place.
It's been a while. I don't know what the number is, but
It's
on our
a
list.
little premature to put a number out.
Okay,
I really wouldn't
I know
want you to.
had that one time on a.
Yeah.
It's
on
on
a
our
deal.
capital.
I haven't, but anyway, I really consider that as a top item.
We believe that's a very doable project because we have 2 skyways, the new skyway and the old skyway, and a detour would be practical. Shouldn't be too difficult on the traffic because of that arrangement. So we would put it down the new skyway and detour everybody up the old
But I really feel that that's a construction capital outlay project, whatever we want to call it, we really need to look at, and the quicker the better. And I made that statement a couple of years ago, and I still feel that way.
Okay, do we have any public comments in regard to this?
Where is, what area of the district is it? Is that Petch Road?
There's a map here, that blue tip.
Yeah. Billy Road and above,
A
essentially.
is the highest area, A, B, C, D, E, this is the highest elevation.
And what is number 1 is A?
Well,
Not
this
exactly.
is actually the voting zone. A zone is more like here.
Basically north of Wagstaff.
Yeah.
North of Wagstaff.
North of Wagstaff.
North of Wagstaff, thanks, Neil. Yeah.
Any other public comments on this item? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve, let's see, D.
Do we want to talk about E first before we make a motion? Or
No.
Make a motion for each one?
It's on page 2 of 3 of that report. We could make that motion.
Once
Then move to
once
the
you
next.
pull it, you need to vote on them
Separate one?
separately.
Okay.
Here,
So it's
I'll
on
make a
item-
motion, we approve 2D on the consent calendar.
Well, it's not on the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to authorize the general manager to
That's
make
it.
the final payments to Concepts in Controls, Inc. in the amount of $34,219.81. Release the $6,076.14 retention in 45 days and file the project's notice of completion and acceptance with the Office of the Butte County Clerk Recorder.
Second.
Any further discussion by board members? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. It passes 5-0. In regard to item 2E, the chlorine gas scrubber, you're still up at bat, Jim.
Yay. Some of my favorite projects. So I'm my pleasure to speak about them, first of all. So the safety conversion from chlorine gas to bleach is a critical project. The gaseous chlorine systems are throughout the United States are being converted routinely to bleach. Only the largest water treatment plants have to maintain chlorine gas because of the cost benefit of it's just not effective for running bleach in very large treatment plants, but we fit the size that it's practical. There's lots of safety issues and regulatory requirements to jump through hoops to have chlorine gas. To be honest with you, in my career, 30 years in my career, I am tired of dealing with chlorine gas. To be candid with you, it's a relief not to have chlorine gas around my work environment and the risk that we operators deal with every day. It's kind of one of those things where you kind of grow to ignore it or the risk. You just live with it, one of those things. But you have to. Anyway, yes, sir.
Maybe you should explain how potent that stuff is.
Well, it's 100% chlorine gas, so bleach is 13.5%. Even bleach is still toxic and dangerous, but there's completely different safety issues. A whiff of a chlorine gas leak it'll burn your lungs. It causes burns on your skin. Any moisture on your body creates severe burns. It's an immediate 911, and it's very toxic to the pulmonary system. Any moisture in your nostrils, in your lungs, the chlorine gas goes straight for it. You're going to get severe burns if you have an exposure. But this particular project is an intermediate project in the conversion of gas to bleach. We had to remove the chlorine scrubber, which was malfunctioned. It was an old technology that, we now have the space that the scrubber occupied now contains the 2 bleach tanks. I think I have pictures in my staff report for this month are pictures of the new tanks. Thanks for looking.
Okay, go to the top.
They're in
Oh, well.
interesting. Almost there. Oh, yeah, not too large, but okay, those are our two new bleach tanks. Our scrubber used to be there. This is a temporary location for our bleach tanks, but it has containment, so we removed the scrubber, and those are our new bleach tanks. Each tank has 6,500 gallons of capacity. In the summer, we'll need practically all that capacity because of the production rate. In the winter, we'll be able to just use one. But it's important to have ample capacity and actually be able to take one tank out of service because you have to wash these tanks out every 2 years at a minimum. So the scrubber used to be there. So right now we have the tanks, we have our pumps. Bill Taylor has got to take the lead on assembling all of the appurtenances that go on the tanks, and we're hooking up the pumps. You're going to, in another agenda item, last meeting,
Already approved.
last meeting you approved Glenmont Global Solutions to do the SCADA. So once we get the tanks and the pumps together and we get all the wiring gets done with that contractor that you approved last month.
Any other questions or comments by the board? Any public participation on this item? Ward?
Are the tanks double?
Yes.
Are they penetrable by armor-piercing bullets?
Absolutely.
How is the charge delivered?
In a tanker truck. These companies are specialized they produce the bleach every day, and the bleach is required to be shipped within 3 days of it being manufactured. And they come in specialized tanker trucks of about 4,500 gallons. And so we take full loads to maximize our bulk purchasing. I just received bids today on bulk purchasing from chlorine suppliers. 3 of the 4 companies I asked bid, and we have a price of a range from 68 cents to 69 cents to 78 cents per gallon. Ideally, I would have wanted to see something a little less than 50 cents per gallon, but because we're so remote, the transportation charges from the Bay Area to here increase our costs for bleach.
And will the finished location of the tanks have a full containment barricade?
Yes, per our general manager's requirement.
Any other public participation? Back to the board. Anything else to discuss on this item?
I move we authorize staff to file the notice of completion and acceptance with the Office of the Butte County Clerk Recorder for the demolition of the chlorine gas scrubber at the water treatment plant.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. It
I'd
passes
like to make one
5-0.
comment in passing, if I could. Could this be in bigger print where we don't need a magnifier to read?
That's not his job.
Sorry.
Thank you,
That
Jim.
was just a comment, didn't expect an answer.
You are relieved. Yay. We're now to the point on the agenda for public participation. Individuals will be given an opportunity to address the board regarding matters not scheduled on the agenda, although the board cannot take action on any matter not on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Opportunity for public comments on agendized items will be available at the time we get to them in the agenda rotation. So at this particular point, this is for items not on the agenda. Do any public members want to speak to us tonight? Okay.
Thank you. I know I got to try and keep it under 5 minutes. Thank you, Board. Good evening, and good evening, Mr. Manager. Some of you are aware that the TQR published an article, State Can Help People Save Water, written by editor David Little, of which he closed by saying, lastly, Cal Water has provided blah, blah, blah. Lots of things, but he didn't cite whether or not any Cal Water meter holders saved any water. And of course, we know that Cal Water and Chico did not do the best they could have last year with saving water, especially compared to us. I wrote a counter letter to him, which well exceeded 250 words, which is the limit to get printed. And he called and asked if he could edit some and get it down. And I said, yeah, certainly. I said, but I'm writing to you, not the paper. And he goes, well, can I print it? And I said, yes, you can. So he did. He edited it out a little. But the upshot of that was, if you really want a resource, you don't call Cal Water, you call PID. We have the resources here through what we've done education-wise in the website, with Paradise Saves Water, with our signage, with the Waterwise Gardening Expo last year. Everything that we've done here far exceeded anything else that was done in Butte County, and I was pretty clear in saying so. If you want to cite somebody that knows how to save water, you cite the town of Paradise. What we've done here is pretty commendable. After that, however, we've had several instances where we could repeat that we still have a serious drought. Those of you that attended the recent Gold Nugget Days melodrama know that the word drought, which was not the theme in the original script, was mentioned over half a dozen times. It was a sub-theme of that sort of spontaneous production there. Yes, there's a lot of human there, but the drought was maintained as a relatively serious comment throughout that play. During a previous meeting, you provided us with a chart that showed where we fall in the percent requested for reduction. It came up to 36% because in this graphing, we came up to 241.1 gallons per person per day. And looking at a 36% reduction, this became a topic of discussion in the Paradise Garden Club and the Butte District Garden meeting. That's a semi-annual meeting. It covers all of the Northern California counties. There were 7 of the garden clubs represented there. They gave me a chance to speak on this. And frankly, I challenged them as garden club members, gardeners, and active planters and users of water, irrigable water, that they are the leaders in their community. The Paradise Garden Club has taken this on as a challenge. We believe that we can achieve a 36% reduction from that 241.1 gallons per person per day, which would equal 154 gallons per person. A 2-person household, that's 308 gallons of water. You can irrigate a lot with that, take your showers, wash your dishes, have a bath, etc., with 308 gallons a day in a 2-person household. It's not that difficult to do. We can do it. As we've talked about this through our various meetings, everybody's taken this on and wanted to know, how can I be better at monitoring what I'm doing? So we're selling AquaHawk, and everybody wants to know more about how do I get registered with Aqua? How do I actually use the thing? And we've asked as a garden club to have a representative of PID, either George or somebody else, come and speak at the July meeting, refresh us as to how we stand as a district, what gardeners can be doing, the things that we've already promoted, and how they can get connected with AquaHawk and see how that will show them. Here's the thing, that spins off. When they have a good-looking yard and they're saving water and we put that blue and white sign there, guess what? Their neighbor wants to know, how'd you do that? They then become educators as well. That spins off to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So what we're doing is we're going to set an example here. Other garden clubs are going to do the same, although they're not going to get PID signs. I'm not delivering them there. And then the last thing is that this is the year that we will have another garden tour. There are 7 properties, 6 of them are gardens, all of which have claimed to save water over the 2013 amount that they had. Several of them have removed lawn. They will have several of the blue and white signs, so people will be actively looking at places where, oh, they're saving water here. Some of the owners will brag about how much water. One of them has already said, our comparison between what it was in 2013 and now is 65%. It's a good-looking yard. We would encourage you to attend the Paradise Garden Club annual tour. I'll pass this around so you can see the highlights of that right here.
Thank you.
And George has already agreed that this little tiny flyer will be available on the counter inside here. So anybody that would come in, you can help promote this, just like we help promote PID and its work. And I thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Ward. Any other public statements, participants? Come on up.
I'm Mark Dale. I am a customer, and I help you guys out with your PR. And I don't know who was driving by this evening when I put this up in front of my office. I think it was Bill. Were you driving by your hunt? Yeah, it was. Okay, I saw the white pickup truck.
That's the way to go is what I was saying.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I appreciate that. We've got 25 of these signs here tonight, and we've got, we got 5 board members, 4 staff members, and a nice audience here. Now let's see if, we got to have what, maybe 20, 25 people in this room. We all ought to have one of these. Each of you ought to have one of these if you don't already. and you ought to take one home for your neighbor on the left and another one for your neighbor on the right. So I've got 25 signs, and I don't want to have any when I leave tonight. So please make sure you take 1, 2, or 3, whatever you can use or whatever your neighbors might be able to use, because you're going to start seeing these popping up all over town. Cedar Creek's doing its part. We spent more than a couple $1,000s last year on our irrigation upgrades. It hadn't been upgraded since the place was built in the late 90s, and we cut back our water consumption quite a bit. And we are planning also on cutting back at least 36% from last year as well. So we're gonna keep you posted. George stopped by for a brief meeting last week. He walked in, the first thing he says, "Mark, your lawn's looking nice and brown." I said, "Thank you, George." So anyway, don't forget your signs tonight.
Gold, isn't it?
Thank you. Any other public speakers? That being the case, we're going to move on to item number 4 on the agenda, approval of the checks, the April checks. Consider approval of the general fund checks. So, do any board member want to be volunteering to be first
I'll go.
speaker today? Sep, take your shots. We'll be back.
iPad, page 43, the Desert Springs Trout Farm. I just wanted to know if that was pounds of trout, that you see the 625, the 253, the 2278, or was that quantity of fish? You know that.
Fish are sold by the pound.
That's what I thought, it was
So
pounds,
it's
right?
pounds.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
$3.95 for trophy and $3.25 for catch. That's the poundage.
Okay. And then on 44, is it G3 Engineering? I think you answered the question in your little thing. I wanted to know if those bleach pump skids, obviously, were probably to what's holding the tanks on.
There were a picture in my staff report on those.
I guess I thought you answered it there. And then the next one down, my question was on Harper and Associates Engineering. That was the final payment?
A-tank rehab.
No, the project is actually ongoing. The contractor's actually coming back next week to continue to try to seal leaks in the concrete tank, which is kind of, it's an art.
Should be
Yeah,
twist.
no, it's epoxy.
Twist,
You
not
got
A-tank.
cracks in a concrete tank, which is normal. All concrete tanks.
Yeah, and that's the twist. This was the A-tank. Unless it was coded wrong.
It says A-tank rehab, but I bet you it's the twist.
It's the twist.
A-tank's been done.
A-tank, we had warranty repairs. A-tank's been done quite a while.
Yeah.
But, and the contractor actually did really well in repairing the project. It was delayed, last winter because of timing. It got done this year, where there was some minor coding, and we had Harper come up and make sure the contractor did it right. So that did occur, in, late March.
So this is final.
That's final on.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That would be the final on
A-tank's
A-tank.
final.
A-tank's final.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay, and then the HSA contributions, health equity. I thought that we made all our contributions at the beginning of the year. Is this new employees?
No, this is employees that have voluntarily withheld money out of their check.
Okay, extra and above.
So we take that and we pay it to health equity.
Got it, okay. Let's see, I think I got a couple more here, but maybe not. Page 51, iPad, page 51. This is for our people in the back there, Cedar Creek. This catches us all up on our billing,
Correct.
okay? And then USR Corporation, reservoir surveillance. Do we get reimbursed for that?
No,
Aren't we required to do it,
we're required to do it.
but no
That-
reimbursement for the requirement?
There's no state mandate reimbursement on that work.
And everybody's got the fingers in their pie, right? That's about it.
But this is the final payment for them, and then in what you already approved was the next 3-year
Yeah.
contract.
Exactly, okay, that's what I thought. Okay, that was it for me.
Bill, we'll jump down to your end of the table.
I just have one. On page 41, Aqua, American Conservation and Building Solutions, Aquahawk alerting, $1,070. This costs us once a month, right?
Monthly.
And I would like to have it on the agenda for next month that we consider charging the people using Aquahawk $2 a month. That would recover our costs, and a little over. It's a minor amount. But my story is that you give something away free, and you worked real hard to get more people to use it. I don't know what it's up to now as far as users, but is it over 1,000 yet? So it's about 10% of our.
It's rising exponentially as the
Okay, well,
information comes out, and
It's just something that you can put to the agenda for next month, Bill, but.
so you have to make sure you just get it in writing to Georgiana before.
I'm sorry?
Make sure you get that into writing.
Oh, no,
to
I
Georgiana.
know the rules, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Doug, did you have anything you'd like to bring up?
I have a couple I'd like to ask on, matter of fact, more than that. On page 42, under here, Bobcat of Chico for 6,700. Is that a replacement or a new one? Have we ever had one for the Bobcat, George, or is that a replacement?
I'm trying to,
What was the name of the vendor?
$6,700 for Bobcat of Chico.
Bobcat, okay. Bobcat of Chico.
Is that a new unit or for us?
that's a new unit you
Trencher
approved a
attachment.
couple months ago.
Yeah.
Attachment.
I
New
remember that.
attachment.
Yeah, okay, good.
For this
And then
case,
moving down on the same page, City National Bank, there's a 65,000 for interest and 70,000 for principal. What note's that on?
It's a private placement loan. Private placement loan that we borrowed for the Corporation Yard,
Corporation Yard, yeah.
Billy Road, and a new SCADA upgrade.
Okay. And then going on over, I had one on those, the fish also, but that was answered. And then, going on page 45, actually 44 and 45, where we have here 375 gallons of clear diesel and 229 gallons of dyed diesel. Notice I asked that. I understand what dyed diesel is and all that, but I may be wrong, and I should have asked this question before. But Butte College runs all of their buses on dyed diesel. And I don't know how they've done that forever, that I've been acquainted with. So have you ever talked to the state about letting us?
Don't mention that.
That clear diesel is for our diesel pickups and trucks, right?
Yes,
Or it's road tax is basically what it is.
yes.
Well, I know, unless that's just changed, Butte College runs all those school buses you see running around here on dyed diesel.
no-no.
I don't put it in it before.
We can't do that.
That's
We
a
can't
red
do
diesel
that.
you find. You don't want to ever run it one without permission, because if you blow a diesel line and it's alongside the road, it's about a $3,000 fine. One of my good ag past students did that. But anyway, so, have you ever asked that question? It might be worth asking.
We can't do that.
Did you ask?
We didn't ask because I know that other irrigation districts got in trouble
They
by
can't
the
get it?
CHP.
Okay, sounds good. And then I
So
have
we
one
need to
here about, okay, it's on the 43, the same page. Now, under Employment Development Department, that state income tax withholding, there's a 4,001 and a 5,001 and more of that. That's deducted out of the employee's salary, and then we just pay it. But that actually came into our account out of the salary that we pay. Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that comes out of the payroll account is money that goes into the employee's pocket. All the deductions we pay out of the accounts payable.
Yeah. But we took that amount of money out of our employees.
And we pay it to the state.
That's all I have.
Larry?
Me? Okay, let's see, they hit a few of mine. On page 42, Butte County Treasurer, property tax for the office. What do we pay property tax on?
It's
Our
actually,
rentals,
The rental, I thought that's what was it, yeah, okay,
there.
because we don't on the other property, right, okay. Okay, and on page 43, to Datamatic, it's an annual maintenance charge for what?
it's for the collection of the reads. So Datamatic.
housing our data.
Yeah, so Datamatic still houses our data.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then on page 44, we have, he asked about it, but I was wondering how many people are in the healthcare thing? How many employees?
HSA.
HSA?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. If I threw a guess
A
out,
guess.
I would say 25 to 30.
Good, okay. And let's see. And page 49, enterprise, how much was it?
Where?
That's for the truck body.
Truck body.
For the service, for the
Right.
service truck. So remember, we bought a service truck with no body
and this is
on the
body.
back, and
Okay.
that's what we did to install
Right.
it. Put all the crane stuff on.
Right, and then the next one is, what are we buying from South Feather?
South Feather Water and
The
Power.
next one.
No, we're not buying from them. They helped us out. If you saw the news clip, we had a leak on Elliott that caught the news's attention.
Oh, okay, that was welding. huh?
We needed some parts fabricated, and
Oh,
they,
okay, yeah, I remember
they
that.
did that for
Okay.
us.
Okay,
It's pretty inexpensive.
yeah, it was. They,
Yeah.
right. Okay, and then on page 51, let's see, who's the vendor? It's, my word, I can't see the vendor. It's right at the top.
Okay.
Page
They're on-
51?
Vendors on the other page.
Oh, is it?
Oh, no, it's there.
Is it there? Who is it?
Costco.
Yeah, okay,
Tyco, Tones,
Tai-
Toyco?
Taiko or something.
right.
Deodorant tabs for portable.
What,
The lake?
Yeah, what's the question?
oh,
Portable
my
toilets.
question, my question
Deodorant
is,
tabs.
how are you coming on the, on the separation of, for fishing versus security on the lake?
Well, I haven't had much time to
You had-
go through all that.
Oh, okay,
to
you haven't
fishing
worked on it
versus
much,
security.
okay. My question on this would be, that if we didn't have fishing up there, we wouldn't need all these toilets, right? So this should go on the fishing
You'd
side.
still,
We would have toilets,
Walkers,
any
picnickers.
No, I mean, if we closed it to the public.
We can't.
completely close to the public.
Yes, we wouldn't need any toilets.
Except
Right.
for, except for the
I'm
employees
just
that work
pointing that
there
out.
to secure it.
The thing, and when we pay off that loan, we don't have to have it open to public. But we don't want to do that, but I just wanted people to know that there are costs involved.
It only happened, no, someone's in there that time.
Anything else, Larry?
The last page is on,
Oh, never mind. It's Director Kelly.
is the, on the top of page 52,
Fistonet,
it says office equipment
maintenance.
maintenance. How often, is that monthly?
No, that's one time or as needed.
As needed.
It was for the phone system. We were having a real hard time with
Oh,
the phone system,
okay.
so they had
That's
to
all
come out
I
and help us.
Okay, and I have none. I'll entertain a motion.
Can I ask one more?
Can you get the,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I turned 2 pages at once. On page 48, at the top, PG&E, I noticed for the Magalia Reservoir Filtration Plant, it's $11,600.
oh, I got,
That must have been considerably higher before we put in the bypass.
and the
Yes,
glasses.
it was.
We must have had a
Getting more and
tremendous
more
power
negative.
bill there.
It was quite a bit more.
Yeah, and then we go down to, on the same one, Moore Road Forest Service, that's pump station number 2.
Correct.
And that was, is that per month? It costs us about $6,000.
per month.
Yes.
$6,600 to pump that.
Yes.
Yeah, good. So everything we can do by gravity, which is in some of these, is very cost efficient, isn't it?
Yes. But it doesn't help us when we try and get greenhouse gas emissions grants.
Yeah. You remember what it cost us before, you remember what it cost us before the bypass was in per month?
Yeah, I have a chart I used to put in my board report, but we save 100,000 plus a year. We're pretty close to actually saving what our debt service on that project is.
I thought that was the case. I thought it'd be nice for these people to hear that too.
Well, I always acquaint it with, we're paying George with that savings. Right.
I'll make a motion for approval of general fund check numbers 47750 through 47880 for the month of April 2015, total $619,540.73, exclusive of voided check numbers 47773 and 47756, and authorize a similar amount allowing or adjusting for extraordinary budget or board-approved items during the month of May 2015.
think you missed a 7, but that's okay. I'll second it.
There was too many sevens and all
It was
that.
too many
Thank you.
seconds.
Any further board comments, questions, discussion? Anybody in the public have questions about the approval process or checks? Or anything there? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes 5-0. We're moving to new business, which is item number 6A, the Water Conservation Program Update. Manager Barber, please.
Yes, thank you. You've got your draft, and then we're going to bring up an updated draft, but let me kind of show you a few things that I've been working on through this process. One thing is, we'll start here, which I think was in your board packet, but I'll bring it up for everyone to see if it'll come up. And that's kind of giving you an idea of where our water users fall. If it'll come up, there it goes. So you'll see here in 2013, which is the base year according to the state. These are all our residential customers. I've pulled them out. So this does not include ag, it does not include business, it does not include governments, institutions, etc. So in 2013, our lowest 20% users, which are probably all A-rate users, used 6% of the total residential water delivered. And the top 20%, volume-wise, of our residential customers used 57.7% of the residential water we delivered. In 2014, we got some improvement. Our A-rate customers cut back some, and our top 20 cut back some, but they still used 47% of the residential water we delivered, and that was to 20% of our customers. And the next highest group, the 60 to 80% users, used 23%. So you couple those two together and you've got 79%, 69% of our water into 40% of our customers. So I want to make sure everybody got a chance to see that. What's proposed in the board packet resolution in draft form right now is an attempt to make that.
Move that over a little bit.
Yeah, I'll
so you can
scooch
see
it
that.
down. And this is now we're drilling down to the June through December numbers. And so if you followed what is in the packet proposal, we are going to try and achieve 50% reduction by those top 20% users, 25% by everyone else, and 15% by our lowest users. And you can see that our target for the state of 36 cutback in those months is 535 units per person. And we would meet that target using this strategy. We can put some other ones in there if you wanted to try them out. I know that one of 40, 30, 20, and 15 actually made our target too. But you have some options as a board to look at different ways of attacking this if you so choose. But as it's not in the packet, but in the updated resolution that I'll bring up on the board pretty quick, those top 20% users was calculated to 319 gallons per person per day. Whereas you take the rest of the customers on average, and it's 90 gallons per person per day. So
we should clarify it's based on 2.6.
Yeah, based on 2.6 person per household, which is the average we have district-wide. Now, I'm not proposing we attack these people. I'm proposing we work through this process. It will be a mandatory requirement in the resolution, but I think if we work with these people, reach out to them, most of this is landscape water, and with some education, some tweaking to their outdoor irrigation, I think we can meet these targets actually pretty easily. So I can bring up, one of the things in the resolution is talking about providing a report to those high users to let them know where they stand on a monthly basis. We've reached out to Aquahawk. They are actually working on a program, have developed a program for all of their California customers for this exact purpose. So if we move forward with this, they can customize it so we only send this report to people that use a minimum amount like 30 units in a month. And it will take their account and it'll actually give them a detailed amount of what they used. And we'll start the accumulation in June or July. It'll tell them exactly where they stood the month before and whether they met or what they need to do to meet the target. Because we're not going to spend money on these high users that actually meet the target. We won't send them a letter. We'll send letters to those that need more work. How's that? So the last thing I want to bring up is the resolution, and I have one addition that I'd like to recommend. It's a little bigger. And it's not in here, but if you go to item number... It's going to be an item number L.
What page?
Letter L.
6.
So let me move down. Page 6.
6L.
What iPad page?
Well, we don't have the iPads up anymore because this is a changing document.
Is that the mandatory 25% reduction?
Yeah, it talks about the mandatory 25% reduction. And so what I'm proposing to add to it, right here.
Okay.
So this was what you previously adopted, was a 25% reduction, and now we're tweaking it. I'm proposing we add a sentence in there that states that customers using 5 units per month or less will not be required to reduce. When you get down to 5 units or less, you're getting down to this 50 gallons per person per day range, which is basically the minimum a person needs according to state and other rules. So I think it's appropriate to add a sentence in there that if you're down to 5 units per month, you're not the ones we need to reduce. And the reality is those that are already there probably will reduce anyhow.
Do you have any stats on that for us, George, about how many people we have that might fit in that category?
If you go back to this, you can see that as low as 20%, they're going to hit that. But if you put them to 0, you're still meeting your target because they're using so little water already.
I think that's appropriate.
Excellent. That makes sense to me. Also, it gives some recognition for those people who are down already so low and have worked in previous multiple years.
Maybe we ought to put a special sticker on those signs when they're in that category. So everyone knows who's the big water saver.
We ought to get them a sticker that says, "I don't shower," so we know stay away.
Yeah. So we get a lot of questions up front and a lot of people concerned, and those folks that are down in that range, they're not the ones we're worried about reducing right now. And so I think in your resolution it should be stated that they aren't required to be reduced.
I agree.
We ask them for their efforts and thank them for what they've done in the past.
Yeah. Yes.
I think we ought to give them awards too.
Thank you. Well, the board has had an opportunity to go through this since it's been out. It's a little difficult to read at first with the holes in it, and we got the holes plugged and
colors and
we've gone over it. But if the board has any further questions of staff, comments they want to
I would
make?
like to point out a couple things that we really need board direction on. We've got institutional and businesses at 25% in this proposal, and I have agricultural at 20. Agriculture comprises of 5% of our total use. I know that most of I know that our major ag person is actively working on conservation. I didn't bring their numbers because I don't want to single them out, but I think those in our ag world are doing their part.
Thank you.
So what direction did you need?
If you want something besides 20% ag and 25% for business and institutional.
Because at the end of the day, they're all businesses and institutions.
Ag and them both, yes, correct. But the State Water Board really focused on residential. Some agencies really are really stuck in a corner if their heavy water use is in commercial endeavors. They still got a target they needed to reach that really needed to come from their residents because the state is not mandating any reductions specifically to any commercial endeavor, unless you disagree with that comment. But that's what I got out of it. So if you had
Or ag.
Yeah, or ag.
Yeah.
So if you had a brewery in your town of 20,000 people, you'd really have a hard time meeting their target. Yes, Bill?
I wanted to point out to customers I have in agriculture that I've talked to, one down in Sutter County has lost 40% of his rice acreage because of cutbacks of water coming out of the Feather River through his irrigation district. There's quite a few cuts that have taken place. One ag district out of Red Bluff has virtually no water. And the one out of Orland is actually spilling water down into the Sacramento River. And the next one down, which is the largest ag district, and I understand that the Glenn-Calusa, I don't know if this for sure, is taking a 25% hit. In other words, these lands are going to be held fallow. There won't be any crops on them. So if people think ag is not taking cuts, I want to make sure they understand they're taking tremendous cuts because that means they've lost that much income in their ranch operations.
Yeah, there's also some out of the Feather River, first time that's ever happened, going down Highway 70, that are going to be able to plant 25% of their rice acreage. They were told, in fact, I was just visiting with one at the fair today, that if they plant, say like 50% of their normal acreage, they could, before it's harvestable, be shut off and they would lose 25%. So they're really pondering whether to do it or not. And what it'll really hurt is the economy. They'll just plant 25% or 75% less, and that's fuel and all of the things, because ag is a major engine for the economy. We're going to just be feeling the sting of that real quick here.
I'm good with these percentages.
Yeah.
Okay.
I should point out to all the public here that there is a section 9 that, so everyone's aware, that is directing the council and to work with myself and go through our conservation committee to draft an ordinance for excessive water use ordinance. And what the driver of that is what type of punishment, for lack of a better term, for those who absolutely refuse to comply with any reductions. That's where we would have the ability to make some financial incentives for them to start joining the team.
Give us an example of what happens with a PUC carrier with their financial incentives if their clients don't meet their goal.
Yeah, that's a good point for those of you that have seen a lot in the paper. This is a good time to differentiate us from the private water companies. Chico is Cal Water. Up in the Pines, it's Del Oro Water Company. they're regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. So when the state tells them to cut 36%, they have the legal authority to implement that reduction and charge excessive rates for those that don't meet their goal. We are a public entity, local government, so our rates are driven by what's called the Proposition 218 process. So we have to do a study, make findings, make sure we're not providing more than the cost of service, present that to our public, give them the opportunity to protest before we can ever consider adopting something along those lines. So if we were to start that today, we probably wouldn't be done until September. So we're in a whole different ball field than those regulated by the Public Utilities Commission.
What was Megalia's requirement for reduction?
28%.
Same, wasn't Chico 28 too?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, exactly, but
Yes, Doug.
I just didn't, I
As
remember.
I understand today,
Megalia.
I know I've had 3 or 4 people, a couple of them are here, talk about the Conservation Committee. And as I understand it, we're going to be the first committee to actually look at the penalty phases of this at our June meeting. So you might put that down on your calendar. And our next conservation meeting is on June 4th, Thursday at 9 a.m. here in this room. And we'll be looking at the penalty phases to pass a recommendation on to the general board.
Okay, I'm going to ask for, if there's any public input, comments. We're under the same type of rules. You know, we're going to keep this focused to just this topic, and you're going to have, seems like it's manageable, up to 5 minutes to speak if you would like. So come on out.
Question that I have is they're putting all the reductions on us on the residential. How much water are we required to release into Little Butte Creek? And since there's a shortage, doesn't it make sense that that should also be reduced too, so that the water's safe for potable use? I mean, is that what percentage of our water that goes into our reservoirs actually do we have to pass through?
Well, I don't know what percentage it is. It's a half. Well, I will go ahead and ask you to answer that. But there's a half cubic foot per second release required down Little Butte Creek.
Yes.
You know what that amounts to in terms of total acre feet per year?
3
How many seconds in a year?
gallons a second. Yeah.
I
was just wondering if there was any.
365 acre feet a year. Thank you, Neil.
Oh, Neil!
It's 1 acre foot a day, which is about what, 328,000 gallons, something like that.
And they don't give us any relief on that in any way, shape, or form.
No, they wouldn't. It's not even worth asking.
Okay, any other public comments, questions? Go ahead, come on out.
I just have a question that I was under the assumption that Paradise had to cut back by 36%. But in your thing, I only see 25% in your whatever.
Yeah,
you were just looking at, I couldn't ask a question when it was up there.
Direct,
so where?
Direct your questions up to the
Oh,
board.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
He was talking about it. So
I know,
figured
we'll get him to talk again.
So 36%, I don't see 36% mentioned in that report.
It's because they're the combination of the 25 and the 25 and the 25 and the 50. The 50 for those biggest people who use half our water.
Okay.
The average for everybody.
So you're hoping everybody's going to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what
then,
we're working towards.
I also understood there were penalties if we don't make it every month. If we don't make that reduction, 36%.
There are penalties. There's penalties for
Penalties to the
district.
District, yes.
I will let Dustin speak to that.
I'll take that. So the mandate, the state mandate starts June 1.
Okay.
The first check-in with the state, the reporting is due July 15th. So that'll be the first kind of assessment of whether you're on target for the 36%. And it's going to be a cumulative approach. You know, obviously the state is going to want to see an excess of 36% starting July 15th, because as you get into November, December, January, when we probably get into what, 100 100 gallons per person per day or something like
Yeah,
that.
it drops a lot.
You're not going to get 36% off of that very low number. You're going to make your 36% savings during the summer months. So the way the state
So
has...
they're going from July to July then, looking at it?
Actually, just 9 months.
Yeah, through
9 months.
February of 2016. The state has very broad discretion on how they can enforce the mandated conservation. What they've indicated is it's going to be a progressive discipline type approach where if a district fails to meet its conservation target, they may start out with kind of an information order, where the water board just asks, what are you doing? What efforts are you undertaking to meet your conservation target? So they kind of get involved in the district's affairs. The next step, if you continue to fail to meet the target, it may be a curtailment order where the water board tells you to do certain things. We don't know what those certain things may be. The final step in the process is a cease and desist order. That's what's getting all the press, the $10,000 per day penalty. The water board staff has indicated that they're really not looking to assess penalties. They're telling everybody they will if necessary, but they're really hoping that districts will comply.
Okay, one other thing. Is that report going to be made public in some way?
Yes, there's a legal requirement that it actually be published either verbatim or in summary form, and then there's also it'll be posted on the district's website.
But there'll be a full page ad in the Paradise Post.
We have to adopt it
with
first.
whatever they adopt.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Ward?
Yes, briefly, thank you. This does hit on one of the topics that's come up for discussion both in board meetings and in general meetings at the Garden Club. And we believe the theory that works is you praise in public and criticize in private. So we've already looked at a way to see how do we point out the members of the club that are really doing a good job and what can we say that's good about them that makes them feel that what they've done is the right thing to do. And then for those who struggle, well, there's some, can I say re-education? They're adults. You'll give us that, won't you? Thank you, Larry. Yes. Okay, all right. Good. Yeah, we'll get to that. But we've even discussed personal visits to see, is there something that some people who are pretty good at this in the Garden Club can go visit somebody who is struggling with that and help get them to the point where they're not a 50%er and get them to move down in the categories. So I think we're on the right track here. I know that we're going to have this up for discussion on the 4th. And frankly, this is again where we're sort of leading the way in what we ought to be doing and getting there in this format. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have one more thing.
Actually, I'll come back to you then.
Okay.
Was there another?
Well, I'd like to, first of all, say that I'm really happy that George has recommended a floor to the board. The 5 units per month being set as a minimum, below which you're not going to ask people to conserve. There are people in that situation. I think they've done well to be able to maintain households without using more than 5 units of water in a month. A question that I have is for 6L on the mandatory 25% reduction language. There's some blanks in there for percentages where 25 was struck before. Would that be where those tabulated percentages would be going that you laid out, the 10, 25, 25, 50% type? Would they be finding their way into that language, or?
That's a state. L is just a statement of the government's, of the governor's.
No, it's ours too. If you go further down in L, it says customers are asked to implement measures to reduce.
Where were the blanks at, Neil?
They were in the version that's in the agenda packet.
Yeah.
The original draft revised language.
Yes.
So this probably, sorry to interrupt, George, this probably needs some wordsmithing. I mean, the intent here is if you don't fall into the high user category, the ag category, or the institutional category, or I guess now possibly the low users, 5 unit or less category. If you're outside all those categories, then you're in the 25% group, which most of the district's customers fall into. So we probably just how to wordsmith that to clarify.
That's a good idea.
And then I'd like to submit a comment, and this is not something that affects me personally, but for the percentages that are in the program that George laid out right now, the transitions are fairly steep from 10 or maybe 0 to 25 and then to 50. I think it might be worth considering trying to smooth those transitions a little bit so that we don't have people that are right at the edge of those groups that end up, maybe being right at the bottom of the 50% cutback group that then end up being told that they have to use less water than people who previously were using less water than them and now don't have to experience a cutback of as much, like maybe 25%.
Maybe I'm being smart, but I'm glad you'll be telling them, not me, on what you're talking. I agree with you, Neil. That's going to be a tough sell with the girls in the office and staff if they are cut in between on those things. We probably do need to smooth them out.
Well, that's something that the state staff did at the water board when they were looking at their percentages. It was originally fairly steep steps. And one of the comments I think that they received, and probably more than once, was that people were going to end up being cut in ways that, we're right at the edge. We're right at the edge, and we're going to have to cut back way more than the people who use just a few units less than us. So,
are you talking about the 20% group or the 60 to 80 users, the next group below that?
He's talking about those that are 81%.
81, yeah.
Get hit with 50, but if they were 79%, they would get hit with 25.
It's a valid comment, Neil, but it's a trade-off, and I think George ought to speak to this. I mean, when you get more granular with your tiers, you're putting a lot more administrative burden on your staff, which maybe with Aquahawk and the tools available to the district staff, that's something that's doable, but I think it's definitely more work.
And I think if you had a user that went into the 81%, you'd be able to just say, okay, another one of those conversations where you just say, okay, where did you go wrong? Where did you go up? If you were 79% last year, now you're at 81%, obviously there's something wrong.
Yes, and again, I think that the ordinance will probably deal with a progressive discipline just like the state is doing.
Yes.
So those things will be taken into account as we
look at the residential
evaluate it.
use, those 60 to 80 percenters, they're 23% of the water usage, and then they double to the 20 percenters.
If you look at where they were in 2013 right here, there's a huge disparity between those and the 60 to 80. So yes, there's going to be some on the shoulder, but I think we deal with them. The progressive discipline it's going to come through me and then to the board ultimately, and those things will be dealt with, I think, through that process.
I believe we can deal with those on an individual basis also, I think is what you're saying. You had a comment?
Yeah, this one gal who I called back, my wife wanted me to talk to her, and she doesn't have a computer, and she didn't understand about Aquahawk and the services available. And I said, well, you can call the office and talk to our office staff to get up the use that you're using on Aquahawk, or you can come into the office. There's two computers, right, Kevin? Mm-hmm. That you can access Aquahawk and get the information on your own water use. So if you're getting concerned that you've used a lot of water, maybe had a leak or something else, and where are you on this chart, you can access this Aquahawk, which is tied into our meters. Everybody has meters now that are read every day, and so you can see how much water you've used or using, and work with your own circumstances to avoid getting into the top category or the next one up if you're concerned that you've used that much water.
Thank you.
How many swimming pools do we have in town? Do you know?
I have no idea.
No idea. Okay.
How many what?
Swimming pools. Because I noticed other people are saying you cannot empty your swimming pool and then refill it during this period.
Well, it's in our regs to do that.
Is it in our?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we don't know.
I don't think it's in the ordinance. It's in the other.
It's in the other.
It's in the shortage, and it would have been triggered in a deeper emergency, but in this year, it's not. Swimming pools are not addressed.
Right. And they're doing spas too. Other places are doing spas.
Oh, I had somebody
So
calling
it's people
about
to use their
water.
common sense on that, though.
Water use I'd like to bring up this time. They went to, there's 5 people in one neighborhood, and the gal was telling me they all put in new septic systems because they're tested and so forth. So the town required them to put 1,500 gallons of water in to test the septic systems to see if they leaked. And we're gonna have a meeting with the town, it looks like, and we need to bring that up because it's sort of, they were saying, well, do you really need 1,500 gallons to test the septic tank? And they said they came out with a bar and hit the bottom of it and see if they could break it if the concrete work was good. But I thought, well, this is interesting. I'm glad it's the town that's doing this. I wouldn't want us responsible for that.
Yeah, but it will affect us.
I got a question.
Yes.
I wouldn't have brought it up because I didn't have it in my notes here, but Bill brought up a good point. I'm on the wastewater committee for the county. I'm the member at large, alternate, and a couple of the installers, 2 of the key people in Paradise that install tanks, they go through about 6,000 to 18,000 gallons every other week, just complying with that. You know, so it's 1,500 gallons, and then there's more than that, you know, and they were just trying to figure out how they could keep doing that, but the town mandates that. So they don't.
Yeah, I took a note. I'll talk to them and see if they have alternative methods.
And really, they
That's
don't.
essentially what, 2 units?
750 gallons is a unit, yeah.
2 units.
They could fill it up with gas, close down the cap, and then carry a match around the side.
Get rid of the town.
See if the leach system's working real good?
Exactly.
Like a Hawaiian luau?
What they're telling me, and having been an installer myself a number of years ago of septic tanks, if they didn't do that, they would have a difficult time complying with the ordinance to approve the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, any other public comments away in the back? No, I'll come back up here.
Do you want to ask them?
Yes, my name's Barry Bunty, and I'm a resident of Paradise. I have some questions about your spreadsheet. You list 1,601,000 total residential units. How many of those are 20%ers?
What number are you saying? Oh,
You list 1,601,000.
Well, it's going to be 48% of that number.
48% of that are 20%ers.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot of water, huh?
Depends.
That's why the 50% brings the other people up to the 36.
According to the chart, yes, that's correct. Okay, now I do have a couple of questions that are not necessarily related to the chart. You had before item number 9 was an excess water usage ordinance that you discussed. Is that in fact a financial penalty?
is it what?
A financial penalty?
It possibly will be, yes.
Yet I've heard from council over here that the state is not considering financial
Item
penalties
9.
on districts. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. They are.
They are.
It's a progressive discipline.
They're reluctant to use financial penalties. Is that correct?
That's what their staff is saying. But if you read their regulations, it gives them the ability to do so.
Oh, yes. You wouldn't write it any other way. It's my understanding also that the governor's executive order is effective June 1 and runs for 270 days. Council may allude to that. What happens after 270 days? Council?
Well, the executive order was adopted by the governor April 1. The emergency regulations that the water board adopted were in April. I don't recall the
19th
date.
or something like that.
In any event, this emergency regulations, the mandate that we're discussing today, lasts through the end of February 2016.
Right.
They have to take action either before that date, declaring the need to continue with the regulations, or more likely,
They being the state?
the State Water Resources Control
Yes.
Board specifically. The water board formed what they're calling a work group which leads me to believe that they want some more permanent form of regulations mandating water conservation.
Would that have to be endorsed by the legislature?
No, the Water Board has the authority to adopt regulations, which have the force and effect of a law, the statute. But permanent regulations go through a more formal process than emergency regulations. So there would be a lot of public hearings and opportunity for public input.
I think that's all I had for now. Thank you.
How long would it take?
Thank you, sir.
It typically takes 6 months.
6 months, okay.
He did. All right. All right. Any other public
Lady back.
like to speak? Yes, you wanted to. Normally, I would tell you this, just so you know, for future deals.
You wouldn't do
especially, right, once a person relinquishes their opportunity.
I didn't make a list. I
That's fine.
apologize.
Go ahead.
I have a question on the figures that we're using to cut our water usage by. Are we going by 2013 or by 2014?
2013, because that's the base year.
But then on your charts, all your figuring is on 2014.
We show 2014, but when we're talking about
2013 is
what
below
we
it.
got to meet the 36% reduction, it's off of the
2013,
2013 base year.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
There's
2013
13.
is higher use.
The target comes off of this number right here.
Okay, and then the other question I have is, when do the residents find out what group they're in? And does it go by month or just by the rest of the year as a total? Like, do I look at July and say, okay, I'm in the 20 to 40 here, so I need to cut back this much. And in August, I'm in this group, so now I'm using more water less, or whenever. Now I need to cut back by this much. How do we figure that out?
Is a really interesting question.
Does the bill
Well, I think,
Okay.
What is our answer?
We're going to establish the 20% based on 2013 usage. We'll have a list of customers, and that's the target thing, and we'll be sending letters to them and working with them through the rest of the year. Everyone else will hit the 25% number.
Okay, but is it by month or by
And
total?
we're looking month by month,
So-
but the state's looking at us.
Well, I know they're
as a
looking
whole.
at total, but if you can do it by month, you probably.
But we're not going to change the groups month by month.
Oh. I can.
so most likely you're in the 25 percentile.
Yeah, I'm actually in the 0%.
Yeah,
Me too.
okay.
For
And-
part of the year. Okay. I recycle my water.
Any,
Thank you
any-
guys very much.
Thank you. Any further public comments? Then I'll bring it back to the board. Does the board have any further comments or questions?
I want to leave,
It's up to you.
I want to add that 5.
Go ahead, George.
Once we answer the board's questions, I request a recess.
You gonna write
Dustin
up
and
that-
I can make all the changes on here, and then you'll be adopting that as it was changed.
I was wondering how I was going to handle that with the changes.
Yeah, exactly,
It's
yeah.
cumbersome. Thank you. Bill, did you have any?
Yeah, this is for everybody in the audience and ourselves. We already talked about it in closed session a little bit. We saved 21% voluntarily last year in the district. And unfortunately, they chose 2013 instead of last year's figures, the state. They're asking us to save another 15%. And keep those figures in mind. Now, the district is owned by you. Every one of you if you have a piece of property in Paradise and you're buying water, you own a piece of this district. You can influence the board, which you're doing tonight, with your comments and anything. And we very much welcome, we very much welcome you come to this conservation meeting that's going to be held on the board. It's really important for everybody to understand this one point. We're not a private business, we're a public business, we're elected officials, most of us, some have only been appointed. And we're trying to serve you as a community. So we expect you to tell us, and you're the folks that are going to save us from being fined by the state or anything else if we miss these mandatory targets now. It isn't voluntary anymore, it's mandatory. So appreciate your coming and asking these questions. And really enjoy your support, and talk to your neighbors. A lot of people have been talking to me just the last few weeks where I hadn't heard hardly anything from anybody before that. So please talk to your neighbors about this and try to get them informed, and everybody on the boat, that we're going to conserve one way or another as individuals what we can do with our own salt. So I thank you very much for coming tonight.
Any other comments, questions by the board? Then we are going to take a brief recess now while the wordsmiths can go to work. And
How long you guys need?
We're gonna.
I think so.
Okay, good.
You start. We're gonna.
You want me to?
Have fun.
What is this for?
At this point, we will reconvene our meeting after that 5-minute break that only took 25 minutes. And do we know where Bill is?
He just stepped out.
I couldn't operate George's laptop.
Nah. Yeah.
I think there may be some people out there waiting.
Okay.
Want me to go holler out the door?
I think
Well,
that's
electronic
a good idea.
proficiency wasn't one of the requirements at law school.
So anyhow, we're going to be coming back into our agenda item 6A, the new business water conservation. And when I'm going to be looking for a what the heck? Okay, so on the motion that's made, let's make this motion with direction to staff to go over these last few adjustments in the resolution and give them the authority to correct obvious clerical misspelling, grammar errors that are consistent with the language that we now have in the resolution. So.
Well, Mr. President, make the motion.
Did you want me to go through it? What we just
Yes,
did?
please, because we need to make sure that we understand the changes that were made.
So before we start scrolling through this, we accepted all the changes. So the only colored ink you see is new changes that we just made. Everything else is the same.
Except for the highlights. There's highlights are still there, but
Yeah, we left the highlights. Those will come out obviously in the final product.
Okay.
So this was a clarification in the whereases to make sure everyone understood that had the state not be involved, we'd be looking at a rationing stage 1 according to our own plan, which is the least restrictive we have. Here's a few. Those are just grammatical changes, clarifications. We'll get down to some meat here eventually. Go ahead.
This is to George's point, those really low water users that we have. We're going to define them as low residential users, so that's a defined term you'll see later on. And you can see there the finding that we delivered, I believe in 2013, it's less than 5% of your total water production to them. And
It's a less than 5 or 5 and less?
well, as a total, all these people as a customer class used less than 5% of your
Less
total
than-
water.
I mean,
It's
but it's
4
5
point something.
units.
And they also happen to use less than 5 units
5
individually.
Coincidental number.
Okay.
This is where we're still, because we didn't get direction otherwise, requiring agriculture users to reduce 20% compared to 2013, and institutional users, businesses, et cetera, to 25%.
In 2014-3?
Yeah, you got
The 4 is crossed
got
out.
it
There's an
crossed.
X through it. You just can't see it.
Oh,
I saw that earlier.
oh, okay.
It's not through to 20,000.
2000.
20,000.
20,143.
We really are impacting the future.
So this, go ahead.
These are the mandatory measures. These are really, most of these are just repeats of what the state's mandating. Some of them are unique to the district. But we clarified that this Section 6 applies to all customers. So whatever class you're in, even if you're a low residential user, you still have to be, you're still subject to these restrictions.
But if you're low, you're probably not doing those things anyway.
Probably not.
No, you could be.
So that, we cut that. That's why it's in a different color and double lined. We cut that and moved that to another spot.
Oops.
This is
We
where
moved it to,
There.
well, here was the other ones that you'd seen before. And then we added D, which covers the low residential. And then that section that was cut above is now E.
But it's lined through, but that won't.
It's lined through because all other customers are now covered under the 25% requirement.
So this is section 7. Section 7 sets forth everybody's requirements. If you're an ag guy, if you're an institutional guy, if you're in the low user category, all our customers will fall in somewhere in this section 7.
Well, where's our 50%?
Where's the high users?
Yeah, where's our
They're,
high?
they're up a little bit.
They're up.
Okay, lost it.
They're actually the first one. They're A.
Okay, I thought I saw them, but then I lost it. Okay, good.
50%.
Move them to the top of the list.
Yes, there. And I think that's it. Yep, that's all.
May I make a comment? 7B and the language of the recital, the new recital regarding 5% and 5 units up above. There seems to be a slight inconsistency in that in 7B it says not exceed 5%, so that 5 units, right? So that would mean that 5 counts, but more than 5 is outside the limits. But in the recital it says less than 5. So that would mean that equal to 5 would not be included, whereas here equal 5.
Right, it's got to be 4.99 or lower.
Wasn't that,
So go up to the new whereas.
wasn't it less than 5% though?
No, it was less than 5 units.
5 units?
No, less than 5 units. It was 5%, but less than 5.
You were scrolling so
Any
fast.
faster, it'll mess up, so bear with me.
Yeah. Less than 5%.
To
5
customers
units or
using
less.
less than or equal to 5 units per month, I think we'll address Neil's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good catch.
All right, so we're kind of splitting hairs here, but all right.
That was what I brought up.
If we want to make
you
it
said less, I
specific,
thought it
it's a
was fine.
5.0000 tolerance.
Do we do 3?
And it's actually, previous to our automated meter reading, it would have been 5 or 4 or 3 or 2.
Only.
No point.
Okay. All right, so I move approval to readopt Resolution 2015-04, the 2015 Water Conservation Program, with amendments allowing staff to take care of any obvious grammatical, spelling errors that may have remained in here pursuant to the last changes that we made.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion by the board? Any further public comments?
Well,
We will have,
this will be online as soon as it's corrected or sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Next couple of days,
Some
it
days up here.
may even be in the paper Saturday.
Well,
Maybe.
How many pages?
Yeah, we might need 2 pages this time.
we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Vice President Corolla,
Yes.
Director Duncan,
Yes.
Director Fletcher,
Yes.
Director Kellogg,
Yes.
President Hunt.
Yes. Unanimous vote, passes 5-0. Thank you very much. That was gnarly. We will move on to item number 6B, Financial Assistance Application Resolution for Reservoir B. Treasurer Phillips.
Just trying to get a copy in here before we lose it.
Page 101. 101.
101?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, well, this is the, Jim can help me with this one. This is a resolution that the board, we're looking for the board to pass to, for the district to apply for a financing agreement for a loan for the repair or the replacement of B reservoir. The loan amount is $5 million, and there's a $500,000 of that $5 million is for design. The remaining is for construction. The loan is a reimbursable loan, so as costs are paid, the state reimburses you. The loan is not, debt service does not start until after 12 months upon completion of the project. So there's two completions of the project. There's the design completion and there's the construction completion. But if you start the construction before 12 months after the design completion, then you don't need to start debt service until construction is complete. But if you delay construction 12 months after the design, then the design portion becomes, you have to start making payments on it, but as soon as you start construction, those payments stop and it's rolled into the construction portion of it. You want to talk about any of the...
I'll just clarify too, this is a process that we need to get the loan process approved. You're still not committing any district funds until you approve an agenda item to hire a design engineer to actually design the project.
That's a good point, yes. So no funds are being obligated by the district until the district decides to spend those funds.
It's just to get the ball rolling.
Exactly. So it's to get the ball rolling, it's to get the financing in place so that when the district is ready to, but there is a timeline on once we get approved upon completion of the project, right?
Yes, there will be a timeline.
Fairly strict timeline. There's always room.
Is it 3 years?
A real positive.
3 years?
Yes.
And if you can go to 5, but you need approval, I believe. And yes, so, and then I'll take any questions.
2% sound like pretty good money.
It's a pretty good rate.
Just around.
Well, I would even take an oblong 2%.
It could be less.
Yeah.
Good. It's likely, I might say, we might likely.
Dr. Kellogg had a question?
Yeah, it's a very simple one. I remember when we replaced the top on this, and I remember it was going to be a 20-year thing, something like that, for the life of the replacement. When I first got on the board, it was one of the first projects we did. I just questioned the whole project. Why do we have to do this? And then the second question is, 2% or not, we don't have the ability to pay the piper. Right now, we're not in any financial shape to take on this kind of money.
Yeah, and this would require a rate increase to not only pay back the money, but also to meet our debt service covenants that are going to be required under this loan. It would require a rate increase.
So my basic question is, why are we replacing something that's working? Is it falling apart? I've been aware of that.
I'll start. I don't believe the floating cover was a 20-year fix. I think it was 10 to 12. If I remember right, we can look it up, but I don't believe it was pitched as a 20-year fix. Floating covers are kind of highlighted by the state health department as a very large risk to the health and safety of our water supply. They're not very secure, and they definitely can be problematic. So this solution And the reason this project's going forward is because it's an identified health and safety risk to the water supply of our district that can be resolved, and the opportunity to get low interest funding is because of that risk. If it wasn't a risk, we wouldn't be on the list. Go ahead, Jim.
Pump station number 2. Why am I commenting on that? It had lots of A-zone, lots of problems. Okay, this whole project is comparable to A-zone. There's issues with the B-res. There's design issues that weren't done properly when it was constructed. We hope that we're going to be able to piggyback on the funding for the floating cover and correct B-zone issues and improve the hydraulics of our entire water system. This is a real opportunity. What George said is all part of the regulatory requirement to get rid of floating covers. What I'm telling you, there's other major issues with B-zone that an engineer consulting firm that we're going to hire who are experts in hydraulics are going to bring their expertise to bear on solving B-zone, B-res-avore problems in terms of storage. We'd like to have B-res a very large reservoir, primarily to store water for wildfires. That, in this type of community, we need to store a bunch of water. Let's just consider California has not storing enough water for domestic use. Well, we need to store a whole bunch of water to fight fires. When it occurs, that's part of our plan, is to increase. We don't know how big we can make B-res. We're approved to make it 10 million gallons. It's a 3 now. We don't believe it's possible to make it 10 million actually, but we're approved. It may end up being 5 million. Now, the bottom line is this whole project, after everything I said, we may just put a fixed cover on get rid of the floating cover, leave it just like it is, and end up with a solid structure over it. That's the minimum project. And that will save us a whole lot. And at a minimum, that's what the project will be. But we hope it'll actually improve let me just...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm done. I don't want to start. I think I made my point.
Yeah.
Unless,
and
from
I was
an
just
engineering perspective, from George's civil...
Yeah, all I was going to add is, it's 3 million gallons of storage right now, but because of the hydraulics, because it was built, thrown in kind of after a project didn't work, the bottom million gallons is unusable.
That's like
we can't pump it.
It's unusable. When it gets that low, we can't operate our treatment plant any longer. So improving hydraulics and putting a cover on it will gain us that storage back.
Where is this located? Is this the one on Skyway?
Yes.
Behind the mobile home, next to the mobile home?
Yeah, hidden back in there.
And let me just say that Neil Esla also, this project, he understands, he'll be able to assist our design engineers in fully understanding, as well as George and our staff who understand the operation and the constraints we have in operation. But Neil will be very, very important. You understand what kind of engineer he is. He has a full grasp of the issues in B-zone, as well as he had in A-zone. But we have plans to fix all this. It's going to cost money, and he said it would be a rate increase. I'm kind of overstepping my boundaries right now, but I support.
That's what we're here to do.
That's what I'm here for, primarily.
My understanding is that the pipe underneath it feeds it, is like 25 feet buried underneath the bladder dam, the bladder. In other words, it's down that deep. That was
the pipe doesn't go under it. It goes around it. And it's on the low side.
But is it that deep? I was told that when I first got on the board. He passed away now. But at any rate, he'd been the field superintendent when that was put in.
Yeah. It's that deep relative So B-res is sitting on a hillside. One side's an embankment. The pipe goes around it on the low side. So one of the potential changes to putting in a new one is to dig 25 feet on the high side for that new pipeline, because you would need the low side for foundation. So that's where you got your 25 foot. It's not currently that deep, but it was proposed to be moved over and be that deep.
I thought he said that's what it was.
It's in our
But
capital
at any rate,
projects.
The pipeline, there's some problems with the pipeline that Neil's really well aware of technically. If he were here, he could explain.
Okay.
He could answer your questions.
I'm just concerned with the debt load we have and we're looking at coming right at us, that we don't have this. And what we're going to have to do is convince our community, and I don't think they'll buy it right now. But at any rate, that's just my opinion.
Well, then,
You have something, Doug?
Yes, I have a couple items on this. I remember Jim has been working on this diligently to get the money from the state, that's $500,000. And I thought when you first started talking about it, you said it was interest-free, but apparently it isn't. Well, anyway, but then now, Kevin, you come up with $5 million. And I remember seeing at the budget, and of course I didn't bring that stuff with me, I have all of it. The overall estimated cost was $5 million to do it. This $500,000 is this from the state to look at it, and it's all well explained in here.
It's all inclusive, so.
It's all included here.
The
in
5
the
million
pages.
includes that
Now,
500,000.
I've only been to B Reservoir once when I had my tour with Bill. Walked up on the bank that you're talking about, and I was quite surprised. And of course, there are security cameras all the way around the thing looking at it. But somebody had thrown something out on it. I forgot what it was. It was something, but it was thrown out there on the tarp.
Happens a lot.
And as I understand it, every ounce of our drinking water comes through B Reservoir.
Correct.
Basically.
You're correct.
And it's the old open reservoir that I used to remember back behind Lynn Hill, whatever the restaurant is. Well, anyway, on this one here, the 500,000, and let's go to page 104, 105, and I got a bunch of things down here. There's a whole 9 areas, and it's all spent there. Number 8 is $150,000 out of the 500,000, right?
Plans and specs, yeah.
Okay, 150,000, 150K. Pending approval on and on and on and on, preparation of the construction and bid documents. Now that 150,000 would give us bid documents to go to, right?
Yes.
And plans.
Yes.
Whatever we decide, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then we go on over here to 30, well, yeah, this is well put together, I might add. I don't know who did this. And, but it's 30,000 for a rate study. Is it costing that much money to do a rate study?
From an outside consultant, yes.
Yeah. We hired an outside consultant. Look at rate study, okay.
So I heard somebody pays 60.
The engineering report.
Yeah, and we usually do those ourselves. We probably will.
Item 5 is
If the state
$50K.
accepts.
And number 2 is a project evaluation and pre-designed engineering is another $150,000, which means that it's pretty well states it there on here. But back on the page 101, for the Reed Reservoir Replacement Project, or at minimum, the replacement of the floating cover. You know. So are we voting to approve $5 million, or are we voting to approve the 500,000?
No.
How many hours did you work on?
I need to put this in context. This resolution is only for you to see a funding agreement. Okay? We've gotten this, we've crossed so many hurdles to get to this point. The state is just, they're like going, hurry up, where's my resolution? Come on. Okay? George is going to get a funding, George and Kevin will get a funding agreement, and that's, and what happens with an agreement? Two people have to sign. You still have an agreement to come to you to decide if you want to move the project. If you approve that, we do the study, all those things, the 500, you still have the decision. Once we have plans and specs, you have to award. So there's all these steps. This is
Right
just
now,
a
we are
bureaucratic,
committing funds.
this is an administrative step to get a funding agreement.
With the cost, with the cost of doing business, what this, you put a lot of time in on this. and
It's
well
been,
spent. Well
it's not
spent.
easy to get this money.
So if we went back to 104 scope of
Yeah.
the project, that's what we would be buying for this. But we wouldn't be committing to the 5 mil.
We're not even committing to the 500. We're committing to him getting a piece of paper so that we can send it to the state.
Let me clarify.
All right, tell him we're going to the bank.
Let me clarify, because you're a little off, Jim, because the resolution authorizes me to sign the funding agreement. So that's what you're approving. But until you agree to hire an engineer, we don't spend any money.
Right.
I understand that. But okay, you sign the agreement and you ship it back to the state and all that, and all of a sudden, this 5-member board representing these people out here say, no, you're not going to do it. So all this work that you've done and the 2% interest on this $500,000 to look at it is out the door.
You're correct.
But we still got B Reservoir. As far as I'm concerned, it just has a rubber tarp drug over the top of it.
I won't disagree with you.
That's it.
It's basically that is.
Okay.
Did you say the 500,000 is reimbursable from the state?
No, in the loan.
So,
In the loan?
It's
Reimbursable in the
So
loan.
the loan stays out here.
Yes.
We have it designed here. They bill us, we pay them, and we send that invoice to the state, and they reimburse us for that amount. So we're constantly
Included
getting
in the loan.
reimbursed for the expenses. So the loan's coming in, but as we're taking funds,
Gotcha.
we're not required to pay those funds back until
after the
12 months
project.
after the completion of that project.
Or 20 years.
No, the loan starts, and then the loan will continue for 20 years until we pay it off.
But if we decide not to do any construction,
After design,
We owe the design money.
then we owe the $500,000, and that will
After
start
the
12
design.
months after the design is completed.
boy, I personally think we need to do this, but I think it's wishy-washy, so I may have to vote no.
What's
But you know, we're
wishy-washy?
not voting on
We're
the
not spending any
project.
money tonight.
When we vote on giving George the opportunity to sign, then are we gonna come back next month and say, George, forget it, tell the state down there, to hell with you folks, we're not gonna do it?
Maybe.
Well, we have to come,
Then Jim would be very cautious not to do this again.
No, let me clarify that.
Do it.
Let me clarify the relationship.
Only if we told you to do it.
Let's go back to stage one. You're the board, we're staff. Our job is to identify problems, bring those to the board with solutions, and it's your job to decide if we proceed. So if you want to take this effort and say, no, we're not ready to spend the money, that's your job. But that's not going to keep us from doing our job. We'll bring you problems, issues, and solutions every month as long as I'm here. You decide whether to spend the money or not.
Interject something. You're completely right, that's your job, and you guys are doing a very good job at doing that. But when I vote on something like this, I'm saying that I will approve spending this $500,000 to try to resolve the problem, because I know it's an extreme problem. It's every ounce of our drinking water has a rubber tarp run over the top of it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Let me just, the entire scope of work was part of this agenda package, which is, so you're authorizing George to sign this. So that's kind of why all that scope was there, to make sure you understood what we're obligating ourselves for. And that, like you said, that scope is very easy to understand. So that's what that's what we're obligating to do. We're approving that phase of this capital project.
Okay.
It's the first phase.
my question for Director Flesher is, what was the wishy-washy part?
When we do that item of business here, we should have enough vision to say, hey, we need to resolve B reservoir part, and this would do it, you see? So bringing it back, that's what I think is wishy-washy.
But
because we're citing the state that we don't know what we're just voting on, we're just doing it here, and we may not make up our mind. That's the way it be.
But Doug,
But
you're the one who says that we should not be committing ourselves to spending money until we know how to pay for it. This is to do nothing more than to get our source of $500,000 lined up, just lined up at the starting gate. That's what this action is to do tonight. And that's what he's trying to do.
It's step one. So think of this as we're not doing this all in one step. Think of if you're out to go buy a house, you don't walk up to the house and I'm going to buy this house and then I'm going to go get financing, right?
See me first.
Yeah, you get your financing in order and then you go shopping for a house, right? So what we're doing is we're getting our financing in order and then we're going to go and take the next step into finding out how to solve this problem, which you feel you've already said is a problem. So we're taking the step forward to get the financing. And the other thing too is in this, there is a component to this of how to pay for this, right? There's a component in there that says rate study. So that is a reimbursable expense once we get this thing approved that we can go then out and either find out if we can do it in-house, if we can do it out, if we have to do it outside, but it's a reimbursable expense that then we can then go out and find out how we're going to pay for this.
Let me ask another question for clarification. Are we going to have a rate increase to repay over a 20-year period the $500,000, or were you talking about a rate increase for the $5 million, Teddy?
Both.
Both, okay. So if we approve this and we do it.
Okay, so think that we're not buying the house tonight. Remember,
we'd have a rate increase to repay, we don't have any way to repay this without a rate increase.
That's correct.
You know, you and I have to talk about rate increases.
Correct.
That's what Bill said.
Yeah,
yes.
That's what Bill said.
But we're not buying the house tonight. We're just getting ourselves pre-approved.
So when it comes back to us, if I get on like I'm doing here, we can say, and you can talk to the state and say, well, there's no way we can pay for it, so we're not going to be able to use the $500,000.
That would be completely up to you.
I'll buy that.
Or you could spend the money to design it, and you could find out that it's a $20 million project, and you go,
no thanks.
Dang, we can't afford that either.
So all we would be out then is the $500,000.
Yes.
But it will also explore the options of, do we want to just put a hardcover on it?
Yep.
Do we want to leave it at the same amount of storage and maybe put a hardcover on it and maybe improve the hydraulics somewhat? Or do we
Right.
going to
Get
raise
all of those answers
Are we
through
going to
that
raise the
process.
storage, improve the hydraulics, put a hardcover on it? We've
Good.
got like basically four different choices of what we're going to be doing.
You got it.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, the way that, with the proper snow load and all of that, this hardcover you would be talking about could be just a building right over the top of it, depending on the piling.
Maybe an aluminum awning with support structure.
Yeah.
That's commonly done.
Yes.
Aluminum.
Possibly just a circus tent.
But let me
Not sure that would pass.
let me try to share. I've done state revolving fund loans, a $20 million project, and okay, this is a prescribed process. State revolving fund, you get 2%, near, less. This is the state's process. It's tried and proved. Hundreds of water agencies use this process. We have to conform with the state's process to get this money. It's well thought out. Just so you know, all this money originated in the federal government. It's EPA money given to the state, and that's the revolving fund. They need these projects to happen to repay the revolving fund so they can loan out the money to other projects. Okay, that's the state revolving fund. It's a prescribed process. We have to jump through their hoops. This is the last hoop to get this moving.
And we're lucky to be invited to jump through the hoops.
I'm sure that
because
we
not
are.
every project makes the list.
George is responsible to start this. He provided the original application.
But I've been involved in others.
Not me.
And that's how they repay it.
I-
Like you're talking about.
Thank you. Any more comments? Questions?
Get the motion up there.
Go ahead.
Okay, basic question. What state of affairs is the B reservoir in?
The reservoir at the moment is it's reliable, but it's at risk for
Health and safety.
for vandalism.
Well, it's been at risk from vandalism since it was built.
It's much safer now because we put security around it, but floating covers are not allowed any longer to be built by the state board.
Has the vandalism damaged the cover?
Not recently. No, it's not. But this is an opportunity to correct a sanitary deficiency
I
in our
realize all the
system.
work you've gone through, Jim, and what it's there for, but I don't see how this district's going to pay for it. We've got this water treatment plant coming straight at us. We don't know how much money it has to be, and this is another possibility. And if we invest $500,000 in it, we're probably going to go ahead with something. And I don't see where the money is.
I would
I
just
do,
say,
but that's okay. You don't have to answer that. Did you want to make a comment, Doug?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment on here. We would be reapproving this after it comes back to us with the engineering firm that we're anticipating hiring, and you would have the rate increase that we would have to pay the $500,000 back.
All that would be coming to you. That's correct.
For reapproval.
Before
approval.
before dollars are spent.
Any money spent over $5,000 would be.
See, I'm thinking strongly about voting yes on this, even though it was no, because I don't like the wording. I still don't like the wording on it. But I know that the B reservoir needs to be changed. And all I had to do, and I'm no expert, don't understand me, but just one time you look at it, because I've done enough irrigation. When you drag a pond over it, the tarp, it's just a rubber tarp. That's all the damn thing is, And all of our drinking water goes through it. So right then, when I was looking at it, I said, hey, there's some problems here. And so I'll have to change my vote.
It's a little thicker than a tarp.
Let's just see how this shakes out. I move approval of resolution number 2015-05 to pledge revenue and funds required for the funding agreement from the state board's Safe Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Program for the B Reservoir Replacement Project.
Second.
Okay. It seems like we've done a lot of discussion about it. I'm going to ask public if they would like to make any comments. Any comments or observation from public members?
I just have a quick question. I heard in the beginning part of the meeting that Zone A needs a secondary supply line. I hear this now for $5 million. Can they be tied together? Because it seems to me if you're able to move more water to Zone A, you can feed it to B and, or is it the state's funding is so specific that it can't be done, and maybe you do a cover and you get the $2.5 million or whatever it is for the Zone A and kind of work them together.
Okay, why don't you explain how the water gets to zone, up at the top of the hill to Zone A?
I don't think I need to do that. The answer to your question is we have to pose that to the state, and the appropriate person to pose that to the state is our engineer when we have one on board. But mostly I want to clarify the secondary pipe for Zone A. The main purpose is not Zone A. One of the main purposes is to provide a redundant delivery of water to the entire district that would meet our minimum indoor needs for our customers while we fixed any problems we had with our main supply line.
But also increase capacity.
If the hydraulics are corrected, possibly yes.
Next public
his
comment?
comment and George's comment, the projects have a linkage. Yes. And we need to hire engineers to help us understand that linkage. Yes.
All right. Ward?
Thank you, yes. And I appreciate Jim's input there. A couple of things, though. Here we are, the public's gone, and we're talking rate increase. We've got to put rate increase talk at the beginning of the agenda when everybody's here, so the public has their
Or they can
chance
stay a
for
little
input.
longer.
Yeah, I know. It's just a point. Here's the thing, too. There's a very valid point to his comment on changing it from $3 million to $10 million. And he used the example of our next forest fire, and is CAL FIRE going to have enough water? You need to find the very best spokesperson from CAL FIRE to lay out a plan of what that much more money and water would do for them when that next disastrous fire strikes. Because when you talk rate increase, those people with CAL FIRE who can talk to a homeowner and say, look, this much more water is going to make a difference whether we save your home or not. Then I'm kind of inclined to say, ooh, rate increase from PID to help firefighting? Ooh, maybe this is a good idea. Without that, I don't see what people are going to say, hey, it works now. Why do you want to spend that much money? Isn't it working now? They're not going to understand the difference between if the tarp breaks, the bird can crap in our drinking water. It's just not working. But the firefighting standpoint, increase the size of the tank, spend the whole $5 million. Yeah, let's do that. I mean, where are you going to get another reservoir? We're not digging new ponds, are we?
Thank you. Any other public comments? Back to the board. Any last comments anybody would like to make?
I have one.
Yes, Doug.
Okay, if we approve this, we're going to say, sign the paper and start looking at it. And when we approve the actual usage of this, then that would come back to us. And that would actually have the engineering fees and the rate increase attached to it.
It would, my thought is that once we get this approved, we're going to go through a rate study. The rate study will include, I would assume, the total amount of the project, our estimated total amount of the project. That would then be included in that rate study for your guys' approval. If we don't get a rate increase to cover the cost of the project, the state will not loan us the money.
They won't loan us this $500,000?
They will not loan us the money.
Okay, so
we have to have debt coverage to cover the debt, which means the only way you get that is to raise rates.
So actually, we would go the 128
to 218. 218,
pardon me, yeah. 218 before we could do this. Now, would we were looking at, for round figures, 10.5 mil for the treatment plant. And then we'd be looking at this and looking at a rate increase to keep the place going.
Correct.
You know, I've talked about that. Would we be doing that all under one time, or what's?
Yes.
All under, okay.
Yes.
So, I've got my question answered.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions by directors?
No.
In that case, we'll call for a vote. Let's take a roll call vote, please.
Vice President Corolla?
Yes.
Director Duncan?
Yes.
Director Fletcher?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
No.
President Hunt?
Yes. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you very much. We're moving to 6C, Memorandum of Understanding with Butte Fire Safe Council. Manager Barber.
Yes, you got my memo. Our wonderful partner at Fire Safe Council found a grant opportunity to do some more work on the east side of McGilly Reservoir, which is this section of property all along here that we own, all the way up into this area. One of the hiccups is the timing. The funds have to be spent by August or September. So our normal process of doing shaded fuel break, where we cut it and then set it in burn piles, chip what we can, and then burn, is not an option. So I wanted to make sure the board was clear on that. But this MOU basically gives them the green light to proceed with this project on our behalf and for us to work with them. The level of effort from our staff will be less than when we have those crews in, because this work will go quite a bit quicker, because what we're proposing is mastication. Mastication is a process that Callie Jane was kind enough to give me a little video so you can see what it looks like. This is what mastication looks like. So instead of hand crews with chainsaws and weed cutters, you get a machine like this that chews up the brush churns it up and spits it back out on site. It's good for the forest floor. It's a safer process to operate during the fire season. It's just a little different than what we've been doing.
I think they used one of this next to my office.
They probably did. There's been a private company doing these around town. Yeah, I think it's looping, huh? Yeah. So I want to make sure you're aware of that. There is protocols that they've put in place for operating during fire season. So red flag days, no work, certain conditions set forth by the fire department would be no work days. It would let us get quite a bit of acreage done this summer, and looking for your approval to proceed with this.
And George, this is not costing us any money for that?
The grant is covering the entire cost.
I move approval of the Memorandum of Understanding with the Butte Fire Safe Council and authorize the President of the Board to execute the agreement.
Second.
Pretty much a no-brainer.
I'd like to comment on it.
Doug, did you want to comment?
I was gonna say, I thought that our project oversight was $4,000. That's what it's gonna cost us. On page 111, it's $4,000.
Reimbursable. That's Greg's time or our staff time.
Yeah.
And we'll get it reimbursed.
Comes from the grant.
Yeah.
CEQA's covered too.
So it actually isn't costing us anything.
Yeah, they've already gotten a bid for CEQA. It's either $4,000 or $6,000. They're waiting for your approval before we proceed with that.
Then I have another question. I'm extremely in favor of this, but anyway, it says here, leased by Paradise Recreation Department, the Botanical Garden, PID. Since I'm on that committee, do we actually own the ground that Botanical Garden is going to be built on?
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, we do. That was
So
on the
they have
map.
like a 99-year lease, or?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, good.
I wanted to make one comment on the map. They're going to put in a park in there, so it should be park and botanical gardens. There's going to be initially as much space used for the park as they will for the botanical garden. So it should be, the title should be the lease for a park and botanical garden, because the park was what got them to get interested in the botanical garden and wanted to have a park in Magalia. So please change or edit the map if you would.
Well,
and put the name park in it.
I don't think the map was part of the MOU. That was something she developed just for your clarification.
Yeah, but I just want to make for clarification that
We're on the
there
other
is
side of
a
the lake.
park going in there. It
Yeah.
isn't just a botanical garden.
This memorandum's for the other side of the lake, though, so, you know, the Botanical Garden doesn't play any.
No, I understand.
Was there another comment, Bill?
No other comment.
Okay. Anything else, directors? Would the public like to comment on this issue?
Well, I can say I saw that machine in operation yesterday at the corner of Pence and Wagstaff, which has been a property that CAL FIRE's had their eye on for quite some time. Did a great job there.
Funny, I drove by that, I heard that ruckus in there, and I thought, somebody's finally gonna develop this property in there, because it's so well screened with all these thick trees, and I figured they could build a couple houses back there, and I'd never know it. But that's what they were doing, cleaning out for fire hazard,
Is that
Okay.
across from Foothill Mill?
Yes.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're really good.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None, passes 5-0. Thank you very much. 6D, PID Town of Paradise Elliott Road Overlay Project. Manager Barber, relieve our fears.
I don't know if I can relieve your fears, and I know Dustin has some input on the agreement, but we included this in the budget. It was discussed a little bit. Now there's the option to kind of decide to whether we move forward with the town or not. If you remember when we did the pipeline on Elliott Road, it was when it got started. I think it actually went through 2 winters. The board had made the decision to freeze 3 open positions, so we were kind of understaffed. at any rate, we're not admitting that we have did anything wrong. This is more of a cooperative project. We get a lot of complaints still to this day, people calling. The town gets their share of complaints. It's a feeder route into the middle of town. So I agreed to bring this to you for your consideration to go into a joint project to do a minimal overlay on that section that we installed pipeline.
Would you go to Exhibit B, Kevin? Thanks. So your legal obligation, back up. Yeah, there we go. That's your legal obligation, which it's to restore to those standards. And George, we've done that, right?
Correct.
So this is more of a gesture of goodwill, public relations maybe, community relations. But this isn't legally required under your permit from the town. What you see on the screen there is what you were required to do. So I didn't dig into this agreement. If you're inclined to go this route, it's okay. I just wanted to make clear it's not a legal obligation. But if you do want to move forward, then I would ask that you allow me to make some changes just to protect the district a little more.
If I remember right,
Are you
when we
sure
did
that it's?
No memo was attached.
Well, that's right. No memo was, you got the memo late. That was an error in the packet.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that are we sure it's okay to do something like this? It almost sounds like we're spending money that we shouldn't be spending.
Well, if that's up for the board to decide. I mean, I don't think it's a gift of public funds.
That's
if
what I'm
you're
asking.
getting to.
Yeah.
You did work in the area. The road is deteriorating. Now, we could say it's not us. But did we cause part of the problem? I think there's enough there in the gray area to say it's not a gift of public funds.
Okay, and the maximum exposure we're going to have, George, would you cover that once again? It's it could be no more than 45,000.
That's what I put in the motion.
Right.
Otherwise, it would come back to you for reconsideration.
This way, it doesn't exceed the 10%. Yeah.
The estimate says 41,000. After talking to Mark, their rules, if it exceeds 10%, it goes back to the council. And so I put the same parameters here. If it was going to exceed over 10% of the estimate, then it would come back for approval.
I see. So, but what the
So
expectation
how do they feel about a
is-
25-75 split, because it is their road? And if I remember right, what we did in repair in the trench that we cut was way smoother than each side of that.
Still is.
Yeah, well, I know.
And to
People associate that-
to tell you what their argument back is we ran heavy
Heavy equipment
equipment
down it, yeah.
and made an impact on the rest of the road.
Yeah.
That would be their argument. And I'm
But we're the only trucks
Just so
that,
you-
we were the only trucks that have ever drove down Elliott in the past 50 years, so.
correct.
Didn't we
Dump
pay-
trucks. There's no trash collection on Elliott
There's
Road.
there's no other heavy truck traffic on Elliott except for our trucks.
Yeah.
What,
There.
didn't we repair this after, I remember a fellow complaining in the lodge about the rough road, and I think
Keith brought us pictures of it, showed us when he did the
That
repair.
was during construction, and
Yeah.
when we ended up, that was before we were completely done.
Well, okay, so you had bumps in the road where you dug service lines coming into on Elliott.
Well, we don't have bumps in the road. The road around our trenches are
Yes,
bumpy,
exactly.
is how I would
This
define
was
it.
Very much like Billy Road.
What I saw was we had bumps in the road, and I thought you paved over it or something, and they went away. It got smoothed out. I had no more complaints about it.
Right, because that was during construction. We had bumps in the road definitely during construction. But once we did the final paving, no more bumps in our work.
Okay, so now they're asking us to repave it after we paved it
Pay
once?
half of it, yeah.
We want to do a
Asking us
complete
if we're
overlay of the
willing,
road.
In the interest of the community, paying half of the overlay.
Isn't,
Isn't that what we did on the Billy Road
No.
No.
part?
We
put an
should have
overlay- They put an overlay on it. I don't know who paid for it.
That was on Billy on that side of Skyway,
That's Skyway.
but not Billy on my
I
side.
mean, on this side of Skyway.
We didn't do it on
I
that.
think Posey
Yeah.
Lane or
Ju-
something.
Just to clarify, the Billy Road, when we joined them, we benefited because we didn't have to do final paving on our trenches. We gave them money for an overlay in lieu of doing the complete final trench paving.
They used their machine.
Yes.
Every once in a while, I get somebody, in fact, I brought that, I think the meeting are here, and I don't, I've lived here my whole life and drove down all those roads, but the one between Black Olive and Pearson, we put a pipeline in there on Oak, is that Oakway now, or whatever it is behind that store, where they just sort out all those buildings?
Yeah.
Behind Reyes.
Yeah. Well, I know there's some people that are residents there that say, I said, well, we fixed what we put in, because I talked to you about it. But they say, well, it's still a bump. As far as they're concerned, it's a bump. But when they drive over it, it's a bump, And I told them to go talk to the town or come up here and talk to you folks. I don't know if they have or not. So what I'm wondering, if we approve this, are we opening ourselves up to have to put an overlay on a lot of these different pipelines?
No, because this is a town project.
Huh?
I assume Dustin will make sure the agreement clarifies that we don't.
Yeah, that'll be.
We're not responsible. We're not a.
Okay, I move approval to authorize the general manager, subject to legal counsel review, amendments and approvals to execute an agreement with the town of Paradise to share the cost of the Elliott Road overlay project in the amount not to exceed $45,000. That, you're gonna take care of changing it, right?
I'll second it. Any further questions or
I just want,
discussion?
I wish we'd have done this on Billy Road.
Okay, so
on this side.
if I want to amend the total, and then I make a motion to amend the,
Yeah.
okay, so I'd like to make a motion to amend the total not to exceed $25,000. It's the town's road. We've done our part. I do believe we have some shared costs, but I do not believe we have half the
I'll
cost.
second that amendment.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion, questions about the amendment to reduce that amount to $25,000? By directors? Okay.
Is there a better,
We're going to go
Bill,
to-
I'm looking at you, you gotta, do you
We're
like
gonna
that
go to-
number or not
Oh,
like that
I'm
number?
glad you joined the team to cut costs.
Well, this is one thing, this is not a project that
No, I
that
understand.
brought to you by,
That's why I have
it's
this
not brought by our
I have my
staff.
strange sense of humor, and to me, you did it funny, so, okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go to the public and ask if there's any public comments in this regard. John?
I agree with Seth totally on, and I'd actually,
Lower the
you know,
number?
well, what square footage is involved? What did you affect versus the total quantity? And I think you're probably pretty close. And if they're trying to say that a backhoe or an excavator put more weight on the road, the loading per square inch is less than a legal truck. I mean, I think you're going the right direction on it, on cutting it back, because you didn't do half the problems.
No.
You might have done a small percentage.
I've lived here all my life. That road's never been any better than than it is right now. Ever. Doesn't matter any time that was ever
Any other
paved.
public comments?
Sorry if I said, am I at the limit of how many comments I can make?
I got one on this one.
Every
One per
agenda,
topic.
every item.
One for each item.
John, like we do attend council meetings, and I think, out of the 82,000, they're going to do the job. I think what they wanted to do was get the half agreement from PID to be able to say they had a good faith agreement and support from PID. They wanted something sort of to be proud of, to talk about in council, because they got a lot of negative stuff going on. And if you throw in the 41,000, their 41,000, they fix the road, people will say, wow, isn't this great? And they can say, yeah, with PID's help, we were able to do this, otherwise we couldn't, blah, blah, blah. They wanted to turn this into a positive, because there's so much negativity between the council and town management and other things. Frankly, I think they're jealous of you and Park and Rec. The only two entities in town that's running themselves on purpose
good decisions.
It is positive. We're offering them $25,000.
They need some positive stuff. Yeah, and 20, even like John said, 25, that's still generous for the damage, really.
Something that's not our responsibility.
Because I
don't know.
I still don't believe the road was damaged by us. Do we maybe cause a little wear and tear?
Your legal obligation is set forth in that exhibit.
Exactly.
You fulfilled it.
Yeah.
Any other public comments?
I'm tempted to just re-amend my amendment and lower the. The more we speak, the more I want to lower the amount. So to a quarter of the amount. So let's keep talking about it. I'll have the number down at 5,000.
I think you only get one amendment to the amendment.
Someone else stepped up to the plate then.
Let's hurry and call this to a vote then. All those in favor of agreeing with the amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I was going to vote no against it, but you guys talked me into it.
None. So the amendment proposal passed 5-0. We're now back then to the amended proposal to allocate $25,000 for this endeavor. Any further discussion by the board? Any further public comments on the overall concept? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. North Lake Boat Launch. Survey agreement. Manager Barber.
Yeah, this is kind of another first step. Oops, I don't have a good picture of it. I should have put that stuff in there, but this gets back to the North Lake boat launch. We were successful in getting approval for 100% funding of the new boat launch.
Nice.
North Lake boat launch.
Great.
Currently, we launch right here. Just to remind everybody, this is our boat launch number 1. It does have a little concrete pad going into it, but we have no property for parking. All the parking that happens in this section for that launching facility is through the graciousness of Sierra Pacific Institute. Not Institute.
Industries. I know.
Institute. College. Yeah. So, through Boating and Waterways, and a lot of effort from Jim, thank you, Jim, we were approved for a $670,000 grant to construct a brand new boat launching facility in this section that we own right here.
Very
So
nice.
it includes parking, paved parking, full restroom, ADA restroom facilities, not temporaries, but an actual building. You would get a boat launch ramp and a docking facility, as well as a solar light.
Running water?
No running water.
Oh, the lake runs.
But there's always a catch. Free money's not always free. We have had very, very positive discussions with Sierra Pacific Industries because they own the land between the road and this boat launch. And so we, as part of the requirement of the grant, we have to get an easement from them, and we have to construct a paved road across that easement all the way to the new facility. My best estimate is you're talking about $100,000 to $125,000 to get all of those things completed, to get us to this boat launch facility that would be paid for through Boating and Waterways. So the surveying is the first step. We need to survey the alignment of the roadway so that an easement can be developed and we can actually do engineering for a road, for construction of the road across the easement we expect to get. So that's what's before you today, is the surveying work needed to get this process rolling. Yes, please, Jim.
The gentleman, when I was sitting here, the gentleman sitting here is Mr. Boise.
Oh, was it?
His name is up there. Okay? Okay, so
I spent, during the recess, I spent 10 minutes out talking to Mr. Boise. He supports this project. He's looking forward to the project. Part of all this dealing with Sierra Industries, we have to deal with Mr. Boise. We have an existing easement with Mr. Boise. Him and I are he's actually proposing to me, we will need a little bit more of his property. We will probably be renegotiating his easement. I'm just telling you what I just talked about with him. Where our success with Sierra Industries so far is making this project feasible. Mr. Boise's support is feasible. Greg, and this last thing I'll say is Greg Dobbs has collaborated with the entire North Lake community. They're all aware of the benefits of this project. The entire North Lake community supports this project, as far as we know. They want to be included, for sure, and we will include that in the CEQA process. So we have a lot of, that's critical, we have their support. The Boises have seen so much ruckus out on that bare ground, that boat launch 2, kind of a makeshift thing, and they're looking forward to improvements, big time. And so that's why they're interested to see this project.
That's good input, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is is there going to be an environmental, when you build a road, isn't there an environmental impact report?
Yep,
That's going to be,
there'll be a CEQA process.
Okay.
That's all part of that
And that's included in the
678,000.
grant.
That's,
The 100?
No,
oh, that's
CEQA
not,
for the boat launch
Yeah.
is included in the grant,
but not the road.
but not
Part
for
of
the
our
road.
road.
Does the 125 cover the CEQA?
I think so. I mean, that's my best estimate right now.
But we'll have to do the environmental impact report.
Yes.
For the road.
It may not be an
Which he says.
environmental impact report.
Yeah, it'll be a CEQA process, not necessarily an EIR.
Okay.
Right now, all we're committing to is just the surveying.
Yes.
Which we're not paying
How long
for.
is the grant?
No, this surveying is for the road. This
Oh,
will
this
be
for the
our
road.
money.
Oh,
Yeah, how long is the grant good for? Are they giving us a time limit to spend the funds?
Yes, they will. I'm not sure. It doesn't go forever. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
but it gives us plenty of time.
Probably 2-3 year period of time, I would,
A couple years,
yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Will it come with a requirement that we provide recreation facilities? In other words, they aren't going to let us build this boat ramp and then shut the whole lake down once we pay off our loan, right?
Yes, you are pretty much committing to maintaining recreation at the lake for 20 years.
Okay.
Oh, okay. There goes your chance to close it down.
Good point.
All right. Any further comments or questions from the board?
I just wondered why there was only one bid for the surveying. That's all. Should we add 2 bids or no?
I didn't include additional bids because L&L does work in the area. They're our local company. They've done a lot of work with us, and so I just focused locally for this project.
I have a couple questions. I think this is water board.
We're not required by the state to get multiple send it out for RFP.
Not for the road. The road's all on us.
Okay, so as long as we're not required to do that, then L&L is more than sufficient.
Yeah, I have a couple, I know, George, since I've been on the board, you've been pursuing this, or Jim or somebody. And the biggest problem was the right-of-way from SPI to get there, before they would agree to this.
Yes.
Now, the road's gonna cost us $125,000, whatever it is. Will that come out of the $670,000 grant?
No.
No, we have to pay that above, plus the surveying costs. We
Plus
know it just happened to
surveying,
be-
plus the ease,
Bill and I-
125 is the ballpark.
It just happened to be that Bill and I were on that end of the lake during the kids' fishing day, when the lady that was out there halfway between the road that we have and this proposed boat launch had whatever she had, a heart attack or stroke, whatever it was, and they almost had a fire truck that needed a new paint job by the time they got done, because by the time the operator decided to back out, so wonder he didn't have marks all over the thing, you know, so.
It's pretty
the
narrow now.
paved road would make that accessible for fire or whatever on this type of.
Yes.
It'll be a 2-lane road, it has to be, and just a
Yep.
boat 1 and boat 2 go in 2 different directions.
Yep.
I move approval to authorize the general manager, subject to legal counsel review, to execute an agreement with L&L Surveying Incorporated for surveying the North Lake Boat Launch Access Road in the amount not to exceed $5,880.
I'll second the motion. Any further discussion, comments by the board? Public input on this?
If most of the people launching boats are from Paradise, shouldn't the town of Paradise pay for half the road?
Oh, geez. It's in the county.
We might be able to use their
On
paver.
board. Jeez.
Just as a side note.
You get rid of it?
They must welcome you at the town council with open arms. With the great ideas you come up with.
George, I understand you're going to be helping to develop the agenda for the joint meeting in August. Perhaps we can put that on it.
If you put that in writing, I will.
We're looking for 20.
Writing with your
We're
name.
looking for 26,000 back from the town.
Just think of it, economic.
We're on track here. Let's go.
It would really be a lot of fun with the way all the things go on if other committees and departments and boards had as much fun as you guys do, and still got a good job done, you know?
Oh, thank you, Warren. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes 5-0.
See if we could get any money from the fire department, I mean, from Cal Fire, since it's gonna help them.
Careful, Larry. We might be paying for a
For
paint
the
job,
road,
actually.
for the
So
road.
Help them take care of our recreational customers.
Right.
All right, we're moving into committee reports. LAFCO, Larry.
Right,
Can
okay.
you tell us, did you guys do any business that affects PID?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear about it.
We raised the
The
rates that we pay. Yeah, we raised how much you guys pay. Yeah, I approved the budget. There were nobody even asked us anything about it. And, let's see, I was trying to see what the thing was. Well, here, I'm just gonna tell you the 2-1-3-1. Yeah, okay, we approved the budget. We authorized a 2% cost of living adjustment to the salary plan, and authorized the permanent employee furloughs to keep at 10 to 15%. And we raised the dues by, where is it? 2% too, no, 5%. Now, that's based on your revenue, and because our revenue is going down, we may get a decrease in our dues. And then luckily, the cities pay 40, and the, 40, and the counties pay 40, and special districts pay 20% of the.
Of the operating expenses?
Right. Okay, and then we approved some more, Oroville is getting rid of all of their islands, and they had a protest hearing on it, and it didn't have enough protests, so therefore it's going through with the annexation in Oroville. And then the city of Chico is still getting extensions on the sewer thing. That's all we did.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
What about, do we give a report on the ad hoc committee or not?
No, you don't give one of those.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. That's why I was going to ask that.
We're moving to item number 8, General Manager Report. George?
Okay, you have my written report. I'll cover a couple things. I did a pretty good coverage of the conference. It was a really good conference. One thing that probably should have been mentioned during the other item, but came pretty clear from both the governor spoke at one of the luncheons, and then the chairperson of the Water Resource Control Board, is that they're both states very, they recognize climate change and that we're experiencing climate change in California, and they're extremely concerned about another dry winter, which is why they were so aggressive in their reduction actions, and all of these water issues coming out of the governor's office really come back to their feeling that there's a strong possibility that we could have another dry winter. And so we need to, as a state, need to take all actions we can to try and do what we can this year in case that happens. So it was a pretty clear message from them. But it's good to hear from them directly about that they plan on progressive approach to any actions against individual agencies, and that's kind of their last resort. So it was good to hear straight out of their mouths. I did go, there was a talk by the chair, I think he was the chair of the California Water Commission, and the California Water Commission is responsible for a pretty good sized chunk of Proposition 1A funding, and their charge is to fund up to 50% of projects that have measurable benefits to the Delta ecosystem. And they are working right now on defining that a little better through work groups. They expect to have guidelines by the end of the year, and it seems like this could likely be a potential funding source for our processed water recycle project, since we have some not so good things we're putting into the Delta ecosystem as a tributary. So we're definitely going to be watching that closely. It almost seemed, you know, in every talk about water, the California Water Commission, they were almost on the defense because the public thought that their money was going to go straight to Sites Reservoir or Temperance Flats or something along those lines. So they were almost defensive that these aren't earmarked dollars, and they're setting up the process, and they're going to look at a lot of projects. So that could help us, because they may want to fund a small, relatively small project like ours that meets their requirements, just to help kind of offset that feeling a lot of the public has that those were earmarked funds for those projects. The solar project, I've talked about that a couple times. We had another meeting. I have another one scheduled. This is work being done by Schneider Electric. We have not incurred any costs. They're similar to the Chevron project. They look for energy saving projects. When we did the tour for the boat launch, Steve Rodowick from the county came on it because he's on a recreation committee. Doug Teeter was on the tour as well. I was telling them about this potential solar project, and they highlight an option maybe to look at the Butte County landfill. They have quite a bit of property that they've covered, and if you could build a solar project that could be adjusted, because the ground's definitely going to continue sinking, that may be an option. So I've brought that to Schneider, and we've scheduled a field meet, or we're getting close to scheduling a field meet to go look at that as an opportunity. What else? Pilot study's complete. I think everyone's pretty convinced that was a successful effort. The final report came out today. I looked at the draft, I haven't looked at the final report, but it was very helpful in defining the issues surrounding making a full-scale one work. And so we're confident that that can be done now.
The key terminology used in the report, it was a successful demonstration of the equipment that we had there, which means that full design can move forward based on information demonstrated is the key word.
Last thing from the conference I want to cover, I went to several sessions on Proposition 218, and most specifically the recent court opinion, San Juan Capistrano, that Dustin's talked about a little bit, and what that impact is for agencies like ours going forward. Their opinion was that it is not it did not kill tiered rates. It did not kill conservation rates. The takeaway I got from most of the sessions, well, one lady said it best. Remember when you were in grade school and you did your math homework and you got the answer right, but you didn't show your work? That's what happened in San Juan Capistrano. It doesn't matter if you get your answer right, you have to show your work. So you have to demonstrate in a study your cost of service and how that's derived. And that'll take you a long way into successfully implementing a rate increase. So,
what they did wrong, let's use round numbers. Let's say their cost of service was $10 million. They kind of arbitrarily divided that $10 million up, and they said, okay, high users, you're going to get $5 million of the $10 million, and we'll split it amongst that category of customers. And then medium users will get 2, and then, they tiered down. It was completely arbitrary. But as a district, they were no more than their cost of service. So what the court said is, no, you can have tiers, but you have to tie each tier to the cost of service. So, slap on the wrist. It doesn't mean that you can't do conservation pricing, but you, as George says, you need to demonstrate that the cost to provide that service is actually going up.
yeah, and interestingly, they used the association, the American Water Works Association has a book on designing water rates, and that's what they used, but that book's no good in California under Prop 218. It's a well-defined way to set up rate structures, but it doesn't cut the mustard in
218
California. We're doing pretty good storage-wise. We're about flat in April on our monthly gallons per person per day. Looking all right there. And we still have 19.2 months of supply remaining with no future rain. Any questions?
Where is the solar thing going to be? Where are they looking?
Perhaps at that dump.
Yeah, perhaps at the landfill.
Oh, but not on our property, huh?
Well, that's kind of what got them looking again, is because there was a new, I don't know if it was a law or something, it's called the Res BCT, that allows local government entities to build a solar project off-site and still net meter with all of their meters in their district. Used to be, when it was looked at by Chevron, your solar had to be at the meter. Well, this allows local governments to build it in a different location, which is good for us because, 5 acres of tree removal anywhere in our town's probably not going to fly for a solar project.
What's the chances of using like the hard shell roof of the B-res? What kind of sun exposure does that get?
There's still a lot of trees there.
Is there?
Yeah.
I just remember it was pretty wide open space, but
Yeah. I mean, any place is an option. It's
when
just,
I saw it, it
what's the
was
cost?
like early in the morning. So yeah, there was no sun. So I mean, I didn't know what like daytime sun that it gets.
But now when they call you up about solar, they Google your place. And gee, I can't even see your roof. You've got so many trees around your place. That shuts them up real fast.
I was going to ask a question. Does PG&E have a grid that will handle that? Because I know of another place that's got solar panels all over. The PG&E doesn't have a grid that will handle it, so.
Well, that's all part.
A whole bunch of those never work.
That's a whole part of the design process, and the fact that the county has a methane think it's methane generator already.
Yeah.
There's probably capacity there.
Yeah.
That's part of the design process.
Thank you, George.
Good.
We're going to move to item number 9, legal report. Dustin, do you have anything you'd like to bring up to our attention at this point?
I mentioned San Juan Capistrano. You're going to see a confidential opinion on that, probably before your next meeting, put it that way. I was at the State Water Resources Control Board today, and it was a zoo. The two items, it was a workshop. The first morning session was on drought operations, and you had, it's actually quite sad. You know, you've got this gigantic zero-sum game where all the stakeholders, the environmentalists want more money, and they want to take it from farms, and the urban guys want their little shake, and the waterfowl guys don't like the fish guys. So, but you just see there's only so much water, and we don't have enough storage in the state. So the only way to acquire something for your interest is to take it from somebody else. The second part of the session, which I had to leave for your meeting, was curtailments. So I didn't catch all the discussion, but the Water Board has curtailed all post-1914 water rights, and the district has 2 of those. Not a big deal because we're not in the winter season. We're not capturing. The Water Board continues to say that it will curtail pre-1914 water rights. It looks like the June curtailment, which is what they're indicating where they'll start, will go down to a 1908 or a 1905 priority. And we dug into some of your old files. As a reminder, you do have a small pre-14 right, but it's a valuable pre-14 right. You know, if we do get a little bit of rain, or come later this fall, the curtailments are still in place, but we start getting some weather, you've got about a 5 CFS direct diversion right. So you can turn that sucker on and put it right into the treatment plant, I guess is what we do.
Yeah, paper-wise, we do.
Yeah. That's the way the accounting shows up.
Yeah.
But anyways, it provides a little bit of flexibility before you start violating a curtailment order. And we dug into the old files, and it looks like it's pre-1900, and I haven't gone further than that, and maybe we don't need to. We'll have to see, but it's before 1900, so we're immune from the first round of curtailments.
Our intern today went down to the county records.
Oh, good.
Based on some of the research he did in our early record books to try and see what he could find down at the county records.
Nothing good so far yet.
Well, it was today. He hasn't
haven't talked to
reported back.
That's all I have, unless there's questions.
No questions. Thank you very much, Dustin. Staff and billing reports. Review and consider acceptance.
Thank you.
I would like to know from board members if they have any items on the reports that were presented that they would like to make comment about.
I was good with all of them.
Or are we just going to accept them
That
and
thing's
move
been
on?
rolling for 30 minutes.
Any questions, Bill?
Yeah.
Was it getting cold? Yeah, okay.
Does Seth have questions?
That's a t-shirt.
No,
I'm
go
good.
ahead, Bill.
Over there, coming here in a t-shirt, of course you're
Well,
gonna get
this
cold.
thing blows like straight down, and it was like, okay.
All right.
I appreciate the chart on page 125 where it's showing gallons per person per day, because that's how the state is going to be looking at us. And so we have a report we can refer to see what's going on. And then the water supply is sort of interesting. We're actually below last year's level on page 128 at this time on supply. If I read this chart right, total storage first of the month.
Yep.
The little red line's gone under the yellow line. I assume we're underneath to last year's supply at this time. It's interesting, I've been following the storms both on the west side and the east side of these there's quite a bit of water. It's been falling at high altitudes the last few days. But some of it's out in the high desert, surprisingly. Not much there, but some of it is in the Feather River watershed and some's in the Sacramento. So we may end up with water coming, at least in those areas. The Firefly replacements in April went up to 47. Is there a reason? Is it just more battery failures going on with the?
No batteries, yeah.
So we're having to replace them with new Fireflies?
Yes.
Kevin looks like he needs to go to bed.
I don't know, I'm clicking through, I'm waiting for your numbers.
Oh.
He's doing the work.
And the pipeline, I'm glad to see we're laying some pipeline finally, got 2,000 feet in the ground. So, and there's something else in there. I think Greg takes a good picture on 138 with that little girl for fishing day. That was a lot of fun when we went out there and visited and saw the kids bringing their fishes in. Huh?
Bill Taylor's youngest daughter.
Oh, well, good. And
First time she caught a fish.
first time she ever caught a
You
fish.
see Director Flesher's truck in the upper picture.
Oh, yeah, right. I don't think. You're lucky you're not next to him, right?
Oh, yeah. You look like pickup there, yeah.
Good thing you're not running for office, you'd be in trouble.
Yeah, we've been in trouble.
Nobody knows whose truck that is anyway.
Well, page 143, I'm really excited about that because we've gone a year around. And look at the increase in use up there at the lake permit comparison. It's the best start we've had, even though the lake is down and everything else. People are really using it. It's well ahead of last year, which was the best year we'd had. So if it keeps up, we're going to have the best year ever up at the lake.
Probably because I brought up the topic about getting rid of a person and opening it year-round and making it free, and it just created so much visibility that people can't wait to come in and spend their money.
Well,
Wouldn't have gone year-round without that.
A lot of people said, when it hit the news, a lot of people said, "What lake?"
At any rate, the rest of it, I'll wait until Kevin starts talking.
Doug, do you have anything you want to highlight?
Me?
I always enjoy these reports that they put together on the staff, and it really highlights a lot of stuff, especially the pictures. And on page 138, that young lady that's standing there with the raccoon, or whatever that is, that's the fire safe zone person. And Smokey Bear showed up, and they couldn't have their pictures taken together.
Nope.
In fact, they made sure that they were on opposite ends of the parking lot.
Why is that?
Like Romeo and Juliet, huh?
I don't
Oh, it
know.
was the Forest Service that insisted, it wasn't the other guy.
Everybody knows bears and raccoons don't get along.
So we were gonna have them dance a little jig out there or something, and they couldn't even get close to each other. So that kind of a good thing. But I thought this report was,
Betty Raccoon told me he used his deodorant.
in fact, I think you tried to take pictures of them, didn't you? Tanya, you did?
We tried to take a picture
Yeah, I
together,
know.
and the Forest Service people said, no, that's against our permits, we cannot do that.
Well, anyway, Jim, I know you and your staff are behind this report. It's always well done. I appreciate it. That's all I have.
Step?
Good?
Larry?
Good.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move we accept the staff reports.
I'll second that.
Very good. Any further discussion? Any items from the public?
Yeah.
Public have any comments or questions about these staff reports? Gabriel Ward's holding himself back. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Treasurer's report. Kevin.
Okay, yeah, my written report, cash position right now is at 3.4 million. 1.3 of that, or approximately 1.4 million of that is a unrestricted. We are pretty much have taken care of most of our debt obligations for the fiscal year, so we should be in good shape going forward. Obviously, our consumption revenue is below budget. Our expenses, operating expenses, are right on budget, and we have well, I'll kind of cover, I went to the Aqua JPIA session of the Aqua Conference, so I can kind of cover that. They talked a lot about the Cadillac tax, which was something that was an unknown of what is going to occur with that. Under their projections, the Cadillac tax takes into effect on 2018, and that if their increased projections are correct, the Classic plan will be a Cadillac plan by that time. The tax is a 40% tax on every dollar over that amount that the premiums are. That will be passed on to the user. So it'll be passed on.
40% tax on just the dollars over.
Correct.
Dollars over the, whatever the government defines.
Government sets is there, yeah.
So that will be then added to the premiums, and the premiums then will be paid to Aqua. Aqua will take off that tax and pay it directly to the government. It appears how the administration of that will be. So we'll absorb the cost.
But that will be taken care of by the individual, not by us.
It'll be taken care of by us. It'll be added to the premium. So if we have a cap and the premiums, then obviously they'll take care of it. If there is no cap, and that would be burdened by whoever is obligated to pay that additional amount. They also talked about a lot about healthcare going forward and how healthcare is becoming a mobile solution. They talked about how if anybody is on the HSA, I don't know if anybody is on the HSA on the board, but it will be, there will be an app coming out in, I think, the next couple months that you'll be able to shop services on your app, on your phone. So if you needed blood work, you can type in blood work. It'll give you all the places that do blood work, the cost, and then the satisfaction of the customer based on that. So that'll be coming out in the next couple months. So I'll let you know when that comes out. They also talked about prescription medicine was a big one, and the cost of prescription medicine. If anybody is on a maintenance, a maintenance drug, correct, then it's all pushed to mail. You have to be on the mail order.
The exception is if you're retired. If you're retired, you don't have to.
Oh, really?
But
never.
But we're not retired. Yeah, I checked into it because I didn't want to go on it. But we're not retired because we get a paycheck. You see.
Again,
So
again,
we have to do it.
They have an app, the Express Script app, and it's really good. You can sign in using your employer or your ID card on your health insurance, and it can track your medicines. You can do reorders right there on your app. It's a really, really good app. They even talked about an app on there that you can do FaceTime with a doctor, and the doctor can look at you. You can talk to the doctor. The doctor can actually prescribe medicine for you. So if you're sick, have a cold, whatever, you can actually FaceTime from your...
Sneeze on the phone.
Yeah. And
wipe his finger across his screen, and then he'll tell you, yeah, you got a cold.
And it actually takes your insurance. So it's an insurance done doctor. So everything's really pushing towards the mobile solutions, becoming, I guess taking it away from seeing your doctor in person. And so it was well done. And it was a good refresher of what's coming forward into the future.
Copay with mail is less than it was with Costco.
Yeah, that's why it's cheaper. Yeah.
And the mail now, my major objection to it was that I just would never order early enough.
Right, you got to order.
They allow, and they should do it anyhow. It's maintenance drugs.
Yeah.
So they'll just automatically send you a little notice and say, we're kicking this out to you.
Right. And a lot of times you'll get
you don't have to order it. Just
3 months at a time, isn't it?
Yes.
And do you want to renew it?
Get 3 months.
Yeah, go ahead.
You get it about 2 months in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was well done and a good refresher of what's going forward. So, and the other thing I wanted to talk about was the budget. I'm going to schedule a finance committee meeting, but I'm going to recommend that we don't push the budget for adoption before the new fiscal year ends. Remember, we don't have to adopt it we have 3 months to adopt the budget. Being that we have a rate increase that we're proposing, with the financing that we're kind of proposing, and all of that. I would kind of slow it down so we're not doing multiple amendments to the budget. I do want to get a picture of what we're looking at to the Finance Committee so that we can get recommendations from them, and then we can kind of go forward with that. But to rush something to the board for adoption, I don't think is necessary at this time. I've given staff the recommendation to really halt on any capital projects that we can at this time. So our capital budget should be pretty small from some of the maintenance type of things, and so that's where we're focusing on, is cutting some of those capital projects. Just from a big overhead view of the budget, operational wise we're solvent. Capital wise we're going to be in the deficit, so that's why I told them to kind of stop that capital spending at this time. So that's where we'll be, and hopefully we'll get a Finance Committee meeting here in the next couple weeks. I am going to be gone next month, or next week. I actually leave next week for the GFA National Conference in Philadelphia, so I'll be gone from May 29th to the 5th, and hopefully I come back with some good information from there, and that's it. If you know,
May 29th? Is that when you go? Friday?
Yep. I know, actually I go Thursday, so what's that, May 28th?
Yeah.
All right. I make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
Second.
Any further discussions by the board?
Very good.
Any public comments about treasurer's report? I guess not.
I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Page 151.
Yeah.
It's got the budget on one side and the actual on the other side, and it shows our income down. I realize we have another month, this month in June, it goes into the thing. Will we hit the budget on water sales and the income, or are we going to be lower?
We'll be lower. We'll be about, I'm gonna estimate about 300,000 lower than our budgeted amount.
How's that compared to last year's income?
Last year it's going to be about 300,000 less than last year.
Less than last year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you look, this is a great one just kind of to show you where we're at, is you can see that right now, based on budgeted estimates or our actual estimates and budget, that right now we're in the deficit about 323. But if you look at April, we actually were over budget in April, probably just due to the weather. We were above, we actually were $15,000 above budget during April. But I mean, if you look, I mean, a good one is September of this year. We were over $100,000 less than what we budgeted and what our normal consumption is.
What is this, if we meet the goal of 15% additional savings in water consumption, how much is that going to affect our income?
Currently, it would probably affect us about $500,000.
For the year?
What we if you take 2013 versus 2015-16, it would be about $500,000. That's why we need to go and do a rate study so that we can estimate what that conservation amounts are and build that in so that our revenue then is built back up so we're not losing that revenue.
Well, that's interesting. My phone.
So I'll just give you one key thing that I'm sure is going to be the theme, and this is just my estimate or my guess. The theme of water in California next year is going to be increase in water rates, because every district is going to have a decrease in revenue based on conservation, and every district is going to have to raise rates to absorb that.
Yeah,
every
like
district.
that Red Bluff district's going to be in terrible shape.
Every district's going to have to. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So we are not going to be the only ones
I
raising
understand.
rates on our customers because they conserved. It'll be the theme of everybody.
I'm not responsible for any of those districts. I'm responsible for this one.
But it's going to be the theme of water. Water will become very expensive.
Yeah, it already has. The sale of water between districts is on the west side is $900 an acre foot, and the growers simply can't afford it. The only way they're going to buy it is they're trying to keep an orchard alive. It shows increase or decrease in cash before debt proceeds and capital. And is that going to stay the same, 366,642?
Yeah, I would say it actually might go up a smidge.
In the deficit there.
Yeah, I would say that would go up because our debt service is completely paid for at this point. So we've.
In other words, it's not going to be as bad as it is right now.
Yeah, and I'm a crystal ball, but I think it will go up.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means the deficit
Larger
will go
loss?
down. The deficit will go down.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. Bookkeeping was always strange to me when you have the double entry thing.
Yeah.
You have to understand the names aren't exactly what you think they would be.
In accounting, credit is not good.
Yeah.
But in banking it is.
Right.
And then the balance at the bottom, ending cash balance, is it's ahead of last year. I was surprised to see that.
That's ahead of what we budgeted, and it's only because our capital program was not what we estimated 1.9 million in capital, and we've spent about 500,000.
So we've actually cut back on expenses there.
We've cut back on capital.
On capital expenditures?
Correct.
Okay, so that was the questions I had, Kevin, thank you.
Yep.
Any other board comments? Do we have a motion on the treasurer's report?
Yep.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh, right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Director's comments. Bill, let's start with you.
I have a customer, California Waterfowl Association, and I work with them on seeding managed wetlands every year down near Gray Lodge. And this year, it's strange how you work with somebody for several years and he builds these wetlands, managed wetlands. He's not an engineer, he's a biologist. And I figured all these years that he'd been hiring engineering firms, but instead he does the work himself. He plans the wetlands, the cut fill maps, the grades and everything else, and they put in substantial acres a year, something like 100 to 200 acres. And well, I got talking to him about wetlands, and boy, he hired in really strong because I wasn't giving him any credit for the work he was doing. But he's also agreed to come up and look at what we have here and give an estimate on cost. Now, these are all dirt wetlands. There's no concrete in them except for structures for in and out water. And they have a problem, of course, with water supply. The thing is critical as everybody else is on water this year. But he's offered to look at it, and he gave me prices of what it's costing them to use farm equipment and have farmers come in and use their equipment for leveling. And all of a sudden, it's like no more than $1,200 an acre, probably less. I don't know what it would be up here, but he's offered to come and look. And that was the reason I was talking to Jim before he left, is telling him that I'll probably be inviting the man up in the next couple of weeks to look at the potential we have here and give us an estimate on building constructed wetlands with no concrete in them, only dirt, compacted, no asphalt bottoms because you want the water to perk through, and that's part of the way you control aluminum because we have high iron soils there. At any rate, that's my director's comment, and I haven't gotten my report done yet. Probably have to wait until after I have him come up and look at it and give me some ballpark figures. So that's it.
Doug?
I have no report this evening.
Larry?
Nothing.
Zep?
I just wanted to say what a really good meeting we had tonight. Very happy. I expected this to go till midnight, and we got through everything 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have been through a lot faster if we had our legal counsel that could type better.
25 minutes worth, really. Did we get to backbill?
That wasn't my comment.
Can we backbill that?
Bill just gave me that. I will comment if I could, just about.
All right.
Yes, there is I think it's on Meyer Street in Chico. It's the Habitat for Humanity, I believe. I haven't been there. And apparently they have a box or 2 or 3, I have no idea, of this device. And what it is, it's a water saving and energy at home, and it's apparently a tub, I haven't dug it out of here, that you can put in the shower and catch water out here. And so it's kind of interesting. In fact, I'm gonna be down there.
While your shower's warming up.
And I'm gonna go by and see if they have it. I don't know what they cost.
While your shower is warming.
Anyways.
Oh, really? Oh. Stand in the tub while
Okay.
you shower.
I do have
We're
another
we're thinking about
comment.
using a bucket and catching the hot water before it gets hot, you know, because and then using it for flushing the toilet or something like that. We're at that stage, you know. It's like the house we had once upon a time didn't have plumbing running to it, but it had a potty chair. So you had to carry it in from outside, you know. Beats the hell out of an outhouse, I might add.
Okay, no more
That
stories.
was probably more information than we really needed on that subject, though.
The meeting is adjourned.
Oh, I had one other comment, but I'll just ask for on the Conservation Committee that we put gray water use on it. It's time for that. At any rate.